Chapter 64. Qi Yixian's proposal. After eating, Lu Mu Yen saw the crescent moon that hung in the sky. Currently, at the location of the small town they were in, the essence of the sun and moon were the densest. She leapt out from her window and onto the rooftop. She sat cross-legged where it was darkest, closed her eyes and performed a macrocosmic orbit skill around her body, absorbing the essence of the moonlight. 2 hours later, she discovered that someone arrived on the roof. Her hands danced in mid-air like butterfly wings, waiting for the macrocosmic orbiting skill to be completed. When she opened her eyes, she met Qi Yixian's black eyes that carried complex colors. The moonlight poured on his cold facial features, softening his face a little bit. Need something? Lu Mu Yen didn't look away, only looking at Qi Yixian indifferently. Qi Yixian suddenly had the urge to hold Lu Mu Yen in his arms. When he was practicing right now, he accidentally discovered that there was Lu Mu Yan's aura on the rooftop, so came up as if he was controlled by something. And what entered his eyes was a graceful woman with her eyes closed, breathing beneath the moonlight, her hands dancing as part of a skill, and a thin, white, soft light enveloped her, giving her a kind of cold and ethereal feel that he had never seen before. Mu Yen, can we discuss something? What do I have to discuss with you? Lu Mu Yen smiled with ridicule. The colors in Qi Yixian's eyes were clear to her. This man fell in love with her. But so what? She was no longer the Lu Mu Yen she used to be. Must we choke each other like this when we talk? Qi Yixian couldn't help but furrow his brows. Since when did Lu Mu Yen change her docile personality towards him to constantly fighting against him? It seemed that it was since Gu Yanran injured her. Lu Mu Yen didn't want to be entangled with Qi Yixian too much. Clearing things up was good, so she nodded. Speak. Can we go back to how we were? Qi Yixian pressed his lips together tightly, his jawline clearly defined. Cannot. But are you still blaming me for not preventing Gu Yanran from injuring you last time? The veins on Qi Yixian's hands that were hidden in his sleeves popped as his palms were full of sweat. Lu Mu Yen raised her eyebrow and said, You know, and you still ask? This man definitely had a problem. Last time you targeted her first. I don't know when your temper became so unreasonable. Last time she taught you a lesson, I didn't do anything not because I supported her, but because I wanted you to be more thoughtful after experiencing that. Qi Yixian's expression was stained with a layer of helpless sadness. At the time, it's true he didn't stop Gu Yanran from teaching Lu Mu Yen a lesson. But when Lu Mu Yan's dantian was almost destroyed by Gu Yanran, he was about to act, except Yun Jin was one step ahead. It was true that he used to find it bothersome to be pestered by Lu Mu Yen, but they essentially grew up together since they were children, so he wouldn't watch her be beaten to death. It was just that he didn't expect that when he fell in love with her now, that incident would cause an irreparable gap between them. When I was unconscious last time, that soul-condensing pill was sent by you? Seeing that the helplessness in Qi Yixian's eyes when speaking about the incident wasn't fake, Lu Mu Yen suddenly remembered that she had relied on that soul-condensing pill to merge all of her into this body, so she took a guess and asked. After waking up last time, she asked her grandfather and the others about the soul-condensing pill, but they all hesitated. Not long ago, the Lu clan even inexplicably helped the Qi clan find a rare crystal stone. At the time, she felt that something was strange. Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site. Thanks. The most important thing was that there were only 2 clans in the entire Imperial capital who had a soul-condensing pill, and the Qi clan was one of them. The other clan and the Lu clan had a bad relationship, so it was impossible for them to take out such a precious pill for her. Grandpa Lu said it? Qi Yixian didn't want to use the situation of the pill to seek any rewards from Lu Mu Yen, so he never mentioned it in front of her. I guessed. Lu Mu Yen half closed her eyes, covering up the change in her eyes. She really didn't expect Qi Yixian actually helped her once. If it weren't for that soul-condensing pill, even if the previous Lu Mu Yen had willingly offered her body to her, her soul wouldn't have been able to merge so perfectly with this body. Count this as me owing you a personal favor. Lu Mu Yen said after a long silence. What the previous Lu Mu Yen did for Qi Yixian was more than what a soul-condensing pill could be used to repay, so she would repay this personal favor, But to Qi Xian, it was just a personal favor. No need. I never thought to make you pay back that favor. Anger slowly rose on Qi Xian's face. He also didn't know why, at the time, he would send his family's precious soul-condensing pill that was rewarded to him, to the Lu clan. Maybe because he felt he owed her a lot, but at the time, he was certain he hadn't fallen in love with Lu Muyen yet. Right now, he didn't want Lu Muyen's return of favor for giving her the pill. He only wanted her, nothing more. But he didn't want to say it, afraid that it would scare her away. If I owe it, I owe it. Whether you want it or not, I'll remember the favor and will eventually return it to you. She hated owing favors, not to mention a favor from Qi Yixian who had once hurt the original owner of this body, so whether this man wanted it or not, she would repay it. Must you really be so distant with me? Qi Yixian suddenly stepped forward and half-squatted in front of Lu Muyen, with a trace of anger in his eyes. Lu Muyen didn't avoid him, and met his fiery gaze coldly. Are we familiar? Then what was your affection for me before? Just because of a past event, are you going to completely erase our affections? Qi Yixian couldn't accept the indifference and coldness in Lu Muyen's eyes, as if they had really become strangers. Lu Muyen raised her head and let out a soft laugh, then stared at Qi Xian and said, "The feelings I had for you, did you accept it? Have we ever had love between us? Even more no. So, Qi Yixian, don't imagine that your love's being reciprocated. When I genuinely liked you, you didn't cherish it. Now that I hate you, you come to pester me. You really are looking for pain." Lu Muyen raised her hand and pushed Qi Yixian, who had gotten close to her, away. She didn't like men who were strangers to be so close to herself and hoped even more that this man would stop pestering her, so her tone was very awful. Qi Yixian took a deep breath and resisted the urge to strangle this cruel woman. A little madness appeared on his face. "Yes, I'm looking for pain. I admit that I like you now." Then he suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed Lu Muyen's beautiful wrist, his eyes firm and eager, saying, "Muyen, can you give me a chance?" The corner of Lu Muyen's lips curled up, then approached Qi Yixian's ear. Her red lips uttered cruel words, instantly shattering all of Qi Yixian's illusions and hopes. "There is absolutely no possibility between us. Even if I die, I won't choose you again. Lu Muyen, you're truly ruthless." Qi Xian turned his head and a faint fragrance of medicine lingered around his nose from Lu Muyen. Finally unable to control himself, he pulled hard and wanted to hug this woman, who he loved and hated, tightly in his arms. Except, before the person was pulled closer, Lu Muyen flexibly pulled her wrist out of his grip, out of his control. She looked at him with an unhappy expression and said something that made him heartbroken. "You are asking for everything. If you want to look for pain, then do it yourself secretly. I don't have time to be entangled with you." Random note, love her direct personality, honestly. Tell him. Make this clear, that's how you do it. Don't be wishy-washy. I actually can't remember what happens to him eventually even after rereading this novel so many times. I only remember the main events, mostly, and the main characters. Oh well, let's see how he develops. I mean, I guess it's a good thing I can't remember whenever I read, I'll still be curious. Chapter 65, Glacial City, Lu Muyen. Qi Yixian couldn't help but shout grimly with countless emotions surging in his eyes. He had never been rejected like this before, and he wanted to turn around and leave immediately. This was the first time he had been embarrassed like this. But he was afraid. He was afraid that if he left, there really wouldn't be any more possibilities between him and Lu Muyen. He had always been calm and wise, but ever since falling in love with Lu Muyen, she had broken all his rationality. Remembering how Lu Muyen used to love so humbly in front of him, and silently did things for him, yet he was so dismissive of such feelings, and now that they had changed positions, he realized how bad he treated her then. "I'll treat you well in the future. I promise." Qi Yixian was reluctant to let go, and couldn't let go anymore. During this period of time, Lu Muyen's beautiful purple figure often appeared in his mind. How she affected his heart and made him fall for her. After experiencing true love, how could he retrieve it? "I don't need it. Qi Xian, just stand there and clear your mind. Lu Mu Yen took a step back, raised her eyes and looked at him seriously, saying word by word, "We will never be able to. Just give up." As soon as she finished speaking, she utilized the spiritual energy in her body and left the room in a flash, leaving only Qi Xian standing there, motionless, with deep regret and pain. Early the next morning, when the sky was faintly lit, Lan Si took the dozen or so people on their tailwind horses and galloped away. Half a month later, Lu Mu Yen and her party finally arrived at the glacial city that was at the foot of the glacial mountain range. The glacial city was an independent city, not belonging to any country, but was instead controlled by a mysterious entity. Many years ago, other empires or distinguished clans wanted to get involved with this city and take over, but were all suppressed and suffered a tragic blow. After that, no one dared to reach their hands towards Glacial City. The Glacial City was located on the southeast side of the Glacial Mountain Range. If one wanted to enter the Glacial Mountain Range, they must pass Glacial City. Therefore, the prosperity of Glacial City wasn't worse than the capital of a small country. The towering city walls encircled Glacial City. Pairs of armored soldiers patrolled the city, and security teams were set up at particular sections of the city to maintain order. At the gate of the city stood 2 rows of well-trained soldiers whose cultivation bases were all above sword apprentice. The small team's leader was even an advanced phase great sword master. When the group rode their horses to the city gate, they stopped. There was a checkpoint there. If one wanted to enter Glacial City, they must pay the entrance fee. Of course, after paying the fee, the lives of everyone in Glacial City were guaranteed. Fighting wasn't allowed in the city, and if one violated the rules, they'd be killed without pardon. The entrance fee is 10 ink gold coins per person. A soldier in white armor stopped the group of people and said emotionlessly, Lan Si threw the bag of ink gold coins that he had prepared previously over, "Can we enter now?" The man opened the money bag, poured the ink gold coins on the counter, then took out a dozen or so notices from the desk and handed them over. "You may enter. These are the city's rules and must be followed." Lan Si took the notices, glanced at it casually, then waved to the others, "Let's go." After entering the city, what one saw first was the bustling streets, while the buildings were also very distinctive. The top of each gray brick building was conical, and it was said to be convenient for placing crystal stones that helped preserve heat. The crowd swarmed along the way, extremely lively, and from time to time, one could hear the sound of hawking one. They rode slowly across several main streets and checked in at an inn with an elegant and quiet environment. "Teacher, does the Imperial family's team also live in this inn?" Ji Han Su was more cheerful and talked the most along the way. Lan Si handed out the keys of the rooms to everyone, looked up and said, "No, they live elsewhere. Well, meet them at the Glacial Mountain Range." "Does teacher know which inn they're living in?" Ji Han Su pursued. "Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site." Thanks. Lan Si raised his eyebrow. "What do you want to do?" "I have something personal to find Yun Gu for." Ji Han Su touched his head with a smile. "You don't need to conceal your little thoughts. When you reach the Glacial Mountain Range, whether you team up with the students of this academy or team up with the Empire's trial team, we won't interfere, as long as you don't cause any deaths." Lan Si paused and smiled thoughtfully, "But there are only 6 trial places, you should all seize the opportunity." "Teacher, didn't the principal tell us, as Imperial Academy students, to team up together against the outsiders?" A senior student from the Heaven class asked in confusion. The corner of Lan Si's mouth curled into a meaningful arc and asked, "Do you think the 11 of you can unite as one?" He already knew that the person who had asked this question had already formed a secret alliance with several other students, and they were rejecting of Lu Mu Yen. Since they didn't like Lu Mu Yen, naturally it'd be impossible for Lu Mu Bai and Qi Yixian to cooperate with them. The person glanced at Lu Mu Yen in his peripheral vision. She was highly likely to hold everyone back, but because they were afraid of Lu Mu by rejecting, he wanted to reply that he could, but the female student in the Earth class tugged his sleeves, so he stopped and made himself look as if he was thinking. Lu Mu Yen pursed her lips. These people were this rejecting of her, but she didn't want to participate in the trials with them even more. When the time came, who knew who'd hold everyone back? Enough, I don't think you guys can unite. Just form a team freely, and you can even act alone. Lan Si truly couldn't be impressed with the judgment of these people. But that was fine. If these few people who would hold people back weren't there, Lu Muyen would have a better chance to advance. Well, listen to teacher. Jihan Su agreed with a wide grin. Of course, he didn't want to join forces with the other people from the academy. Among the 11 people, he only thought highly of Lu Mubai and Fu Qin. But amongst the two, one of them would definitely bring Lu Muyen, while the other was accustomed to being independent, so there wasn't a possibility of alliance at all. These are the rules of the glacial city. Take it and have a good look. Don't violate any rules, otherwise even I won't be able to protect you. Lan Si stuffed the notices in their hands with a serious expression. Yes. Tomorrow morning, we'll leave for the glacial mountain range. You're free this evening. You can go wander around Glacial City. There are many mercenaries and businessmen here, maybe you'll have some unexpected gains. You're dismissed. Lan Si instructed them a bit, then left with the other 2 instructors first. Lu Muyen held the key and went upstairs with Lu Mubai. The others also left one after another, leaving only 4 people standing. It seems that the strongest students have their allied teams already. One of the 4 said with worry, "What are you afraid of? They still have to fight the Empire's trial team. When the Sandpiper and the Clam fight, the Fisherman gains too. We may still have a chance." The male student, who previously asked Lan Si the question, said with calculating eyes. The other 3 smiled in understanding. That's right, until the very last moment, the result wasn't clear. Chu Luxiang, who was the only female senior student among them and the senior Earth class winner, looked in the direction of Lu Muyen's departure and resentment flashed past her eyes. She and Gu Yen grew up together and were like close sisters, but very few people knew about it. This time she wouldn't only compete for a trial place, but she would also avenge Gu Yen. She deliberately confronted Lu Muyen before in order to reduce the defensiveness of several people towards her. After all, showing recklessness and brainlessness was also a good cover. At the same time, in the Ming Alliance of Merchants main hall, on the main seat, a man who wore red clothes and a silver mask sat indolently. After listening to the report of the person in the lower seat of priority, his long and narrow eyes squinted, and he said softly, "The Glacial Mountain Range? Let's go and join the fun too." "Yes, Your Highness." One hawking as in shouting for people to come and buy food. Just an FYI, since I never knew this word existed until now, ha-tu, a Chinese idiom meaning when 2 party fights, a third, uninvolved party, could potentially take the benefits and advantage. Kind of like how when 2 people of equivalent strength fight, they may be injured severely, and a third person could take advantage to get rid of the 2 people together. Note, Ye Mingxiu's back. Omeo, Qi Xian, Sai Qi Xian. What can I say? Random note, finished Chef Hua. It was so cute and simplistic. And the food, drool. Let's go watch Chef Fong now. Chapter 66. Trading Market. After Lu Muyen returned to her room, she washed up. Seeing that it was still early, she went to invite Lu Mubai for a stroll around Glacial City. Except when they arrived downstairs, they met Qi Yixian. "Brother Lu Muyen." Qi Yixian walked to the 2 and greeted them. "You 2 are going out?" "Yes. We're going out for a stroll." Lu Mubai nodded lightly. He didn't like Qi Yixian, but he wouldn't reject him too much because of the situation with the soul-condensing pill. On Qi Yixian's handsome face, there revealed a rare smile. "I was just about to go out too, let's go together." "It's better to separate." Lu Mubai furrowed his brows slightly. "I'm alone, I think it's best to go together." Qi Yixian had made up his mind to redeem Lu Muyen, so said insistently. Lu Mubai glanced at Qi Yixian lightly and found that his attitude was firm. His brows knitted even tighter together. He didn't know how his younger sister felt about Qi Yixian right now, so he looked at Lu Muyen and asked, "What do you think, little sister?" "Whatever he wants." Lu Muyen knew that even if she refused Qi Yixian, this man that had suddenly gone crazy would still follow, so it was better to just let him. Lu Mubai saw the impatience in his younger sister's eyes and knew that she had truly cut and abandoned her love for Qi Yixian. So he didn't care about Qi Yixian's attitude, and instead he felt that this situation was fine as it is. Let him have a taste of how it felt to desire yet not be able to obtain. When they left the inn, Lu Muyen asked Lu Mubai, "Eldest brother, where's the place the teacher spoke of?" "That I know," Qi Yixian said before Lu Mubai could speak. "There's a large trading market in Glacial City. Aside from the permanent shops, many mercenaries or outsiders will rent stalls to sell things gathered from the glacial mountain range, like demonic beasts, spiritual herbs, spiritual stones, and the like." "Are there a lot of spiritual herbs?" As an alchemist, Lu Muyen naturally paid more attention to spiritual herbs. "A lot. But there are very few high-level spiritual herbs. But if you're lucky you might meet some." Qi Yixian's tone was rather relaxed. He was fairly familiar with Glacial City. "I've been here once, and I was able to buy the rare ice herb in the trading markets." It was precisely because of that ice herb that the alchemist enshrined by the family was able to refine the soul-condensing pill. "Ice herb? That's not that bad. Let's go and take a look." Lu Muyen liked to study the path of alchemy back in the cultivation world, and loved spiritual herbs even more, so she was rather excited for the trading market Qi Yixian spoke of. "All right." Qi Yixian agreed with a light smile. Lu Muyen discovered that the Qi Yixian that had removed his aloofness seemed to be a completely different person. But this wasn't that important to her. She owed Qi Yixian a personal favor, but once she repaid it, she believed that there wouldn't be too much interaction between them. When the three arrived at the trading market, night had arrived, and the night market just opened. The trading market was brightly lit, crowded with people, and sword masters wearing various different styles of clothes came and went. The atmosphere was extremely lively. When one walked through the gate of the trading market, one could see two passages. One of them lead to permanent shops, while the other lead to the free trade zone. There are a lot of spiritual herbs and spiritual stones from the glacial mountain range in the permanent shops, but the price might be a bit higher. If you wanted to try your luck and hunt for treasure, the free trade zone's more appropriate. Seeing that Lu Muyen was staring at the two paths in thought, Qi Yixian pointed to the one on the right and spoke. Lu Muyen nodded. "Then let's head to the free trade zone first." The three of them walked through the passage on the right. After entering the free trade zone, they heard a mixture of noise. There were stall holders shouting and selling, and there were buyers who were bargaining. In short, it was an extremely lively scene. Lu Muyen remembered that Mo Yen in her spirit pet bangle had a keen eye, so she took him out and carried him in her arm to hunt for treasure. She started looking at the first booth with great interest, while Lu Mubai and Qi Yixian followed behind her. When she saw something she was interested in, she picked it up and bargained with the stall owner. If it was suitable, she'd take it. After looking through half the stalls, the three of them all gained a lot. Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site. Thanks. Lu Muyen even bought a lot of spiritual herbs needed for refining pills, and Mo Yen also found several materials useful for refining magic tools. Eldest brother, Muyen. The three of them were just looking at crystals at a stall when they heard Yunlan's voice from behind. "Cousin." Lu Muyen saw Yunlan walking towards them, and a gentle smile rose on her face. "Yixian, why are you here?" Seeing that Qi Yixian and Lu Muyen were together, Yunjin felt a little strange, so he stepped forward and patted him on the shoulder, asking. Qi Yixian didn't conceal anything, seeing that his friend had asked, "Am accompanying brother Lu and Mu Yen for a look around." "Accompanying Mu Yen? Have you two reconciled?" Hearing Qi Yixian say that, Yunjin's eyes dulled. An inexplicable irritability rose in his heart, so he couldn't help but ask. "Yunjin, you can eat whatever food you want, but you can't say whatever you want one." Lu Muyen looked askance at Yunjin. What did he mean by reconciled? She didn't want to continue to have anything to do with Qi Yixian, nor be branded by him at all. Qi Yixian's eyes darkened, but he didn't explain. Since he was determined to obtain Lu Muyen, then he had to show some sincerity. When Yunjin heard Lu Muyen say this, he didn't know why, but his mood was instantly healed. He didn't say anything more on this topic with them either. Yunlan glanced at Qi Xian surreptitiously, and seeing the dejected look on his face, a slight arc rose on his lips, then he retracted his gaze. Did you guys gain anything? Yunlan asked Lu Mu Yen with softness in his eyes. Lu Mu Yen smiled and said, It was all right. I bought some spiritual herbs, but we didn't encounter anything special. How about you guys? We also didn't buy anything rare. We were about to go look in the commercial street. Yunlan said, Then you guys can go to the commercial street. Well, finish shopping here first. Lu Mu Yen had a constant feeling that if she left this free trade zone, she'd miss something significant. Yun Jin leaned forward with a smile and said, How about together, well, wander around again. Let's go together. I also have something I want to tell you guys. Yunlan did indeed have something to discuss with Lu Mu Yen and Lu Mu Bai. Alright, let's go. We'll talk while we walk. Lu Mu Yen reckoned that Yunlan probably came to find them about an alliance. After walking for a while, Yunlan lowered his head beside Lu Mu Yen and whispered, Let's form an alliance for the trial in the glacial mountain range. Sure. Lu Mu Yen agreed without hesitation. She wasn't familiar with the glacial mountain range, and she much preferred to advance and obtain a trial place with people she knew, so she didn't reject the proposal of an alliance. Yunlan didn't expect her to agree too readily. There was joy in his eyes. Then seeing some ruckus occurring in front, with even the word treasure thrown about, he pointed, Let's take a look. The rest were also attracted by the ruckus and walked over there together. As soon as they approached, they heard someone say to the stall owner, Do you have a delusional disorder? For this broken thing to be traded with a tier 5 or even higher level demonic beast skin, aren't you just indulging in a wild fantasy? This sort of thing's also considered a treasure? What a waste of our time. That's right. Only the crystals beside it are all right, but you want to sell it as a bundle, and you even want to exchange it with a demonic beast skin. It's not like we're foolish spenders. Quickly squeeze through and take a look. Mo Yan's voice that carried with it a bit of eagerness sounded in Lu Mu Yan's sea of consciousness. When she lowered her head, she saw her little beast's eyes glowing brightly. An understanding smile rose on her lips, and she quickly squeezed through. A popular saying that means you need to watch what you say because it can potentially be bad for others. Random note. Yes, girl, thanks for being this direct about your relationship with Qi Yixian XD. Don't let others misunderstand. Man, Qi Yixian sure is desperate. Well, we've got more people evidently interested in her now. Let's see how that goes when Ming Xiu appears. Chapter 67. Content for after Lu Mu Yen squeezed through, she saw a sloppy middle-aged man with a stall in front of him. On the stall was a pile of crystals that were suitable for refining magic tools. Among them was a palm-sized dark gray stone that caught her attention. Buy that dark gray rock. You must buy it. Mo Yan's eager voice resounded in her sea of consciousness. Lu Mu Yen gently poked the little beast on his back with her finger, indicating that she knew. After listening carefully to the conversations around her, Lu Mu Yen obtained some useful information from their words. This middle-aged man wanted to trade the crystal on the table, but he required the dark gray stone to be the main item of trade. More importantly, he only wanted a demonic beast skin of tier 5 or higher. Those that didn't know the value of the gray stone all thought the man was just indulging in a wild fantasy. The crystal's qualities were all quite good, so it attracted a lot of people's attention, but it was a pity that the man simply wouldn't yield, so after so long, the things on the stall still hadn't been traded out. Lu Mu Yen held back the look in her eyes, reached out and picked up the dark gray stone in her hand to play with, then asked casually, What kind of crystal is this? She had observed from the look of the man that even he didn't know the origin of this stone. That's why she asked this question. The middle-aged man raised his head and glanced at Lu Mu Yen impatiently. Don't know. You don't know and you still want to trade this for such a high-level demonic beast skin? Xiao Ziong, who had followed Lu Mu Yen in squeezing through, couldn't help but cut in. The look on the man's face was even more impatient, and he said with a very bad tone, I've said it many times. I can feel that this stone's extraordinary, so I want to trade it. You can believe it or not. If you want to trade, then stay. If you don't, then put the stone back and get lost. If it weren't that a spiritual treasure he was refining required a high-level demonic beast skin, he wouldn't take out these materials that were used for smithing to trade. Especially the dark gray stone. It always gave him a mysterious and unpredictable feel. These ignorant people asking these questions really made him annoyed. What's with your attitude? You? Xiao Ziyang wanted to say more, but Lu Muyen turned her head to stop him with her gaze. I want your pile of crystals. Lu Muyen played with the dark gray stone in one hand, and with the other, she pointed to the pile of crystals of varying colors on the table. Xiao Ziyang glared at Lu Muyen speechlessly. This woman was truly a prodigal lady. Hearing Lu Muyen's words, the middle-aged man thought she just wanted to buy the crystals on the table like the people before, so he said with a poor attitude, I don't sell individual crystals. If you want it, you need to trade me a Tier 5 demonic beast skin. I only sell the stone you're holding. Lu Muyen wasn't angry at the man's attitude. Having to consistently repeat things he had been saying was frustrating for sure. She chuckled and nodded casually. I only want the crystals on your table, but since you want to sell it like that, that's fine. I'll trade. Hearing Lu Muyen's words, the man raised his head and looked at her squarely, with a hint of brilliance in his eyes. It wasn't the brilliance of seeing a beauty, but it was the excitement of obtaining a demonic beast skin he wanted. Then give me a Tier 5 demonic beast skin. Preferably fire attribute. The man said with a rare, pleasant tone. The corner of Lu Muyen's eyes twitched. This man sure had many demands. However, a smith having a strange temperament was normal. After all, having to deal with fire day in day out, fire poison would accumulate in their body, which naturally meant it would affect their temperament. Therefore, many smiths were very irritable. Eldest brother, contribute a Tier 5 demonic beast for use. Lu Muyen knew that Lu Mubai had the corpse of a Tier 5 demonic beast, so she asked with a big smile. Lu Mubai didn't know why his younger sister wanted this pile of crystals. He felt that she cared more about the gray stone in her hand, but he was unconditional in pampering his younger sister, so he took out a Tier 5 water crocodile's corpse and said, I don't have a fire attribute demonic beast corpse, only a water attribute corpse. The middle-aged man looked at the corpse of the water crocodile on the floor with furrowed brows. His eyes revealed a bit of conflicting emotions. If the spirit treasure he refined could obtain a fire attribute demonic beast skin, then it could be even better, but materials were scarce right now, so he could only make do. Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site. Thanks. Just when the middle-aged man wanted to agree, a female's voice rang from the crowd. This young miss wants that pile of crystals and that dark gray stone. Then, everyone saw a tender and beautiful woman in a red dress with an arrogant and domineering attitude walk towards them after leading a few people to drive the onlookers away. You have a Tier 5 fire attribute demonic beast skin? The middle-aged man retracted his gaze on the water crocodile and looked up at the woman who opened her mouth. If he could have a fire attribute demonic beast's armor, then he would naturally choose something more beneficial to him. Of course. The woman raised her chin proudly. Hey, aren't you too unfair? Obviously this was something we ordered first, and we already gave you the demonic beast's corpse, but you actually want to back out. Xiao Ziyang had long felt that the middle-aged man was unpleasant, and now he was angered. This man with no ethics was just too classless. The middle-aged man glanced at Xiao Ziyang and said, Didn't we just fail the transaction? I need fire attribute materials. Now that there is, why should I choose the water attribute demonic beast skin that I could just barely use? Of course, I, Huashao, am not a villain. I'll compensate you with some crystals for free in a bit. He indeed went back on his word, so it was nothing to compensate some crystals to these little children. When Lu Muyen heard Huashao's words, a look of surprise flashed across her eyes. Then she had a plan in her heart. Take out the skin of your fire attribute Tier 5 demonic beast for a look. Huashao turned his head to the red-clothed woman and said with an attitude that didn't appear too enthusiastic. With a thought, a fire attribute crimson fox appeared on the ground. Huashao crouched down and took a look. The crimson fox was a bit small, but given that the demonic skin was of the fire attribute, it was more suitable for him than the water crocodile. Can you still take out a fire attribute demonic beast skin? If you can't, then he'll trade with her. Huashao was actually not that satisfied with the Crimson Fox as he wanted a scaled demonic beast, so he looked at Lu Mu Yen and asked, though rather hopelessly. Pfft. The red-clothed woman sneered, with disdain in her eyes. If she could take it out, she would have taken it out a long time ago. Isn't it unnecessary to ask? The woman in red looked askance at Lu Mu Yen, and when she moved her gaze to the white demonic beast she was holding, an understanding flashed across her eyes. She also decided to buy the pile of crystals and that inconspicuous dark gray rock because the fire cloud mink in her spirit pet bangle called attention to it. Although she didn't know what sort of rock it was, but she knew that sometimes the more inconspicuous something was, the more of a treasure it was. You, hurry up and bring that gray rock over. Xening Xian, the woman in red, pointed her finger at Lu Mu Yen with slight contempt on her face. Lu Mu Yan's eyes turned cold. She hated other people pointing their fingers at her the most. She noted this arrogant and cocky woman down. Who said I don't want it anymore? Lu Mu Yen shook the rock in between her two fingers in front of the crowd and said lazily, "Today, I'm definitely taking this." Your tone sure isn't soft. If you take out an even higher level fire attribute demonic beast corpse, then why shouldn't this young miss let you? Xen Yingshen's eyes were full of disdain. Note, yes, a higher level fire attribute demonic beast? I wonder what she can take out, haha. Note, what a caring elder brother Lu Mu Bai is. Love the sibling relationships in this novel tbh. Too many backstabbing siblings in other novels. Also loving the familial relationships too. We need more healthier sibling relationships in C novels. Edit. Oops, accidentally published this one early. Just to clarify, there won't be a second chapter today, I just accidentally scheduled the time wrong. I still need to write up my students' reports XD. Enjoy. Chapter 68. Am I a foolish spender? Even she only owned this one tier 5 demonic beast corpse, so she didn't believe at all that this woman in front of her could take out the corpse of a tier 6 demonic beast. Let me? Do I need you to let me? Lu Mu Yen raised her eyebrow and sneered. You really have the skin of a fire attribute demonic beast? You better not be teasing me? Huashao's eyes lit up, but his voice carried a sense of warning. His good attitude today was almost worn out, so he hoped that this woman wasn't playing him. Xen Yingshen snorted coldly, then take it out. You can't trade by just talking about it. She hated women who were more beautiful than herself. So looking at the woman in front of her who was a beauty that could cause the collapse of a country, that appeared indolent, and had a clever temperament, she hated her even more in her heart. The surrounding crowd didn't believe that Lu Mu Yen could take out an even higher level fire attribute demonic beast. After all, a tier 5 demonic beast that represented a sword spirit stage swordmaster was already difficult to kill, let alone a tier 6 demonic beast equivalent to the strength of a sword monarch. For this woman who appeared to not have a strong cultivation base, she was probably only taking nonsense and causing dispute for her personal feelings. So some people yelled in agreement, that's right, take it out and let's see. Do you think that high-level demonic beasts are like cabbages that tray all over the street? Let's not talk about a higher-level demonic beast. I'm afraid that she couldn't even take out another tier 5 fire attribute demonic beast's corpse. That's right, she even asked her elder brother for the water crocodile just now. For a moment, the surroundings became livelier. Xen Yingshen hugged her arms, displaying a high, arrogant posture, certain that Lu Mu Yen couldn't take out the skin of a fire attribute demonic beast. Lu Mu Bai furrowed his brows and looked at Xen Yingshen. He had already guessed her identity in his heart, but he didn't object to his younger sister going against her. As for Yun Lan and the others, they only had curiosity in their hearts. Lu Mu Yen had given them too many surprises, and this time, they also inexplicably believed that she wasn't just talking irresponsibly. But how did she obtain a demonic beast corpse with the strength equivalent to that of a sword monarch? The Lu clan didn't have any sword monarch experts at all. Lu Mu Yen didn't care about the discussions occurring about her. She originally had some uses for the tier 6 flame unicorn beast corpse, but she could only give it up for the rock that Mo Yen wanted. However, Taking advantage of her wasn't that easy. With a thought, she moved the corpse of the flame unicorn beast that Ming Xiu had killed onto the ground, but she had already taken away its blood essence and its horn a long time ago. A pressuring fire attribute demonic beast's aura spread throughout the air. The flame unicorn beast died not long ago, so the heavy pressure of a high-level demonic beast had yet to dissipate, though it had been weakened. However, it still caused the people around them to pale with fright. What? It's actually a flame unicorn beast of peak phase tier 6 strength. Those who came to explore the glacial mountain range wouldn't be that weak, so someone in the crowd recognized the corpse of the demonic beast on the ground. A flame unicorn of peak phase tier 6 strength? No way, that's equivalent to the strength of a sword sovereign expert. My eyes aren't blurry, are they? To be able to see a tier 6 flame unicorn beast in my living years, it truly was worthwhile to come. Meanwhile, Huashao's eyes stared, transfixed, on the corpse of the demonic beast, his body slightly trembling. The burning desire and excitement in his eyes formed a great contrast to his coldness earlier. Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site. Thanks. He eagerly walked to the flame unicorn beast's corpse and squatted down. He stroked it a few times with his shaking hands, as if cherishing a prized work of art. This was the best material for refining magic tools he had come across in his entire life. Xening Xian also revealed a look of disbelief. She naturally knew what sort of existence the tier 6 flame unicorn beast was. She looked at Lu Mu Yen, who was calm and composed, with conflict ion in her eyes. She was confused. What exactly was the origin of this woman? She was the young miss, born from the main wife, raised by the Xen clan, one of the 10 distinguished clans in the eastern region. She had the capital to be arrogant, but she wasn't stupid. Until she knew the identity of the woman opposite her, she wouldn't do anything against her on the surface for the time being. She sure didn't want to offend a stronger force than the Xen clan for a mysterious stone. Of course, if this woman had an average background, then she'd remember today's grievances of her taking the rock, and eventually find this woman to make her repay. Not only were the outsiders stupefied, but even Yun Lan and the others were shocked. What was happening here? How could Lu Mu Yen possess the corpse of a flame unicorn beast equivalent to the strength of a sword sovereign? This flame unicorn beast was of a superior demonic beast species. The skin of its entire body was composed of pieces of fire attribute scales. It could be said that its defense was abnormal amongst demonic beasts, and its ability to escape was also extremely strong. Even a sword sovereign expert might not be able to kill it. The strongest person's cultivation base in Yanzhou Kingdom was only the sword sovereign ancestor of the Imperial family that had long gone into closed-door cultivation. The other distinguished clans and noble families had no sword sovereign experts, and the Lu clan behind Lu Mu Yen didn't even have a sword monarch expert. So how did she obtain such a super high-level demonic beast corpse? It simply didn't make sense at all. They couldn't see through Lu Mu Yen more and more. Luckily they all had a very good heart, otherwise, with the way this woman was constantly stimulating them from time to time, they would be stimulated to the point they might even fall ill. Have you touched it enough? Seeing Huashao's appearance as if he was some inexperienced person, Lu Mu Yan's mouth twitched. This man was at least a smith that wasn't at that low of a level. Yet now that he saw a flame unicorn beast, his eyeballs appeared as if it wanted to be glued to the demonic beast's corpse. Huashao swallowed, raised his head with excitement and pointed to the crystals on the table, saying, "Ill trade. You can take all of these things. Ill trade with you." Wait, don't be so hasty yet. I didn't say that I'd use the entire flame unicorn beast's corpse to exchange for whatever this rock is. As for those crystals, it's even less worth it. Lu Mu Yen raised her eyebrow, took the dark gray rock, and threw it up and down in her hand casually, with a look as if saying, "It's not like I'm an idiot." All the people present didn't feel as if there was anything wrong with her attitude. Instead, this woman was truly a prodigal. With the corpse of this demonic beast, even if it were a few scales, it'd be much more valuable than that rock. They really didn't know what sort of brain circuit this girl had to actually be willing to use it to trade. What do you mean? Just tell me directly, what do you want to do? I want this demonic beast corpse. Huashao blocked the flame unicorn beast's corpse with half his body as if a wolf defending its food. This kind of high-level smithing material was superb. Whether he'd be able to chance upon something like this again in the future was uncertain, so he sure didn't want to miss this chance. What do I mean? You tell me. Can you compare this Tier 6 flame unicorn beast to the value of this ugly rock in that pile of crystals? Lu Mu Yen asked instead. She had her own plans, and she wanted Huashao to walk right into the trap she designed herself. Huashao wasn't scheming, and his temperament was relatively straightforward. So after hearing Lu Mu Yan's question, he nodded honestly. It's definitely incomparable. Your flame unicorn beast is more valuable. Then am I a foolish spender? This is obviously a losing trade. Will I be that dumb and give you the entire flame unicorn beast for these ugly rocks? If it were you, would you? Lu Mu Yen continued to ask. I want. Huashao shook his head and added silently in his heart, only an idiot will. But right now, he sure hoped that this woman before him was an idiot. The surrounding crowd couldn't help but roll their eyes upon hearing Lu Mu Yen ask this question. If you're not a foolish spender, nor an idiot, then would you take out such a precious flame unicorn beast corpse to trade for a random, ugly stone? Xiao Xiong was even more speechless and murmured beneath his breath, Prodigal lady, she's really a prodigal lady. Note. Welp, what a reason for Xening Xian to hate Lu Mu Yen, for her beauty. But then I continued translating and realized she wasn't the idiot I thought she was gonna be. Haha, I've read too many cultivation novels with stupid young masters and young misses that just up and go you're courting death that I thought that was where this was going. But the Xenclan. Still an enemy regardless. Man, it really is like I'm reading this novel for the first time. Chapter 69. Forge a feud. Lu Mu Yen was satisfied that Huashao had followed the direction her words wanted to take him. Seeing that almost all the people around them looked at her with the same "you're a fool" look, her lips rose into a meaningful smile. These people didn't know the value of the dark gray stone. If they knew, they'd find that the corpse of a flame unicorn beast couldn't be compared to it. But she definitely wasn't kind enough to explain the wonders of this stone's use. Alright, I won't make a fuss about how you changed your mind previously. So I'll use 1/5 of the flame unicorn beast's corpse to exchange for this stone and those crystals. Lu Mu Yen kept holding the rock in her hand. On the surface, she appeared as if she didn't care, but she was actually afraid of it being snatched by others. 1/5? That's a little too less. Huashao's eyes widened. After seeing an entire flame unicorn beast, how could he bear to give it up? Lu Mu Yen chuckled softly, smiling exceptionally radiantly. 1/5 is already a lot. 1/5 of the corpse of my flame unicorn beast is already larger than that crimson fox. Speaking of, it seems I'm the one that's suffering a loss. Of course, if you feel that you're suffering a loss, then I'm too lazy to bother with you anymore. Just go trade with that young Mississippi. Lu Mu Yen displayed a nonchalant and indifferent gesture, throwing the dark gray stone she was playing with back to Huashao. Huashao suddenly felt that the stone that he previously considered a treasure had become a burning problem. In terms of size and value, 1/5 of the corpse of the flame unicorn beast from this purple-clothed woman was indeed far better than the red-clothed woman's crimson fox. How could one choose copper coins after seeing gold coins? He wasn't that stupid to lose something big because of something small. But this woman sure remembered her grudges well. She still remembered how he wanted to back out earlier. Can we discuss it a bit more? You can use 1/5 of the flame unicorn beast's corpse to trade for my stone and the crystals, but I want to discuss with you about the remainder of the corpse. Huashao pondered deeply, then decided that he would take out all the good things he had accumulated to see if he could trade them for the entire flame unicorn beast's corpse from this woman. Lu Mu Yen raised an eyebrow as she stroked her chin under Huashao's nervous gaze, then said leisurely after a while of silence, I'm in a good mood today, so discussing with you is fine. But this isn't the place to talk. No worries, well, go wherever you think is appropriate. Huashao's face brightened and said with haste and urgency. As long as she was willing to talk, then there was still a chance. Lu Mu Yen glanced at him with disdain, put away the flame unicorn beast on the ground, then nodded and said, then let's go. Huashao packed away all the crystals from the stall, thought a little, then stuffed the dark gray stone quickly into Lu Muyan's hands, as if afraid she would go back on her words. This stone's counted as a deposit, you take it first. Aren't you afraid of me running away with it? Lu Muyan concealed the smile in her eyes. Everything was under her control. Why should I be afraid? I absolutely believe in your credibility, Mississippi. Huashao's unshaven face pulled a smile that he thought was very sincere. He had never done such condescending things in his life, but for the flame unicorn beast's corpse, he'd bear it. Lu Muyan took the stone slowly and nodded. All right. I'll temporarily accept this stone since you're pleasing to the eye. I'll return it if we don't come to an agreement. The others that heard this were completely speechless. Where was this stall owner pleasing to the eye? He had such a sloppy look, with clothes stained with soil. Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site. Thanks, it seemed that she wasn't only just a foolish spender, but her eyes weren't good either. Of course we'll agree, how could we not come to an agreement? Huashao said immediately. Even if he couldn't get the remaining flame unicorn beast's corpse, he'd still take that 1/5. Then are you still going to trade with another? That young miss is still waiting for your reply. Lu Muyan looked at Xen Yingxian, who had a grim expression, and asked Huashao with a smile. She was very vengeful. She still remembered how this woman wanted to snatch her things arrogantly just now, and also her act of pointing her finger at her. Not to mention she had a feeling that in the future, she'd inevitably forge a huge feud with the woman. Since that was the case, then it didn't hurt to offend her more right now. Her intuition had always been rather accurate, and because of this keen sense of foresight, she had escaped numerous catastrophes before. Young miss, please put your crimson fox away now. She indeed took out a corpse of a demonic beast that was higher in tier than yours, so you didn't lose unjustly. Huashao pointed to the crimson fox's corpse on the ground, and there was some irreverence in his eyes. Xen Yingxian took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in her heart. She glanced at Lu Muyan with an obscure, cold look, put away the crimson fox, then quickly left with the people she brought. After leaving the markets, Xen Yingxian's face was as grim as ink, and she ordered a man beside her, go and investigate that woman. A viciousness flashed past in her eyes. If that woman's background was stronger than hers, then she'd swallow this for the time being, but if that woman was just a small clan's pupil, then she'd slowly play her to death. Yes, third young Mississippi. Lu Muyan looked thoughtfully in the direction Xen Yingxian left and was even more determined to find the deep orchid in the glacial mountain range. She must quickly refine the foundation establishment pill and improve her strength. After leaving the free trade zone, Lu Muyan smiled and asked the others, how about we go to the commercial stores to have a look? She wanted to collect more spiritual herbs in case of any emergency in the future. Little sister has the say. Lu Mubei's indifferent eyes displayed a bit of pampering. He wouldn't ask Lu Muyan where she obtained the flame unicorn beast. As long as his younger sister was fine, then he'd be satisfied. Yunlan and the others wanted to go to the commercial area to have a look to begin with, so they naturally wouldn't refuse. Only Huashao looked miserable, but he didn't dare to offend this little grandaunt one before him, so he could only tag along with them. After the few people left, the crowd of onlookers gradually dispersed. Some of them also secretly ordered others to investigate Lu Muyan's background. Truth be told, Lu Muyan didn't really want to take out the corpse of the flame unicorn beast to trade with Huashao so ostentatiously. Except, after that woman interfered, and for Mo Yan's need of that stone, she could only show off a little. As for the consequences of taking out the flame unicorn beast, she had already thought about it. The marrow cleansing pill had already been known to everyone. Didn't she have a mysterious master? It didn't matter to put more responsibility onto her master. She believed that those people who secretly investigated her would definitely attribute her possession of the flame unicorn beast to that master. Speaking of master, Ming Xiu's figure suddenly flashed through Lu Muyan's mind. Her lips raised in a merry arc. Who knew what that devilish man's reaction would be if he knew that she traded the flame unicorn beast so casually? She reached out her hand and rubbed the ice bangle on her wrist. This bangle truly gave her a weird feeling. There seemed to be a sliver of connection between her and it, Yet it also seemed that there was none, drawing them together yet not quite. This ice bangle was definitely extraordinary, but she hadn't found the trick to unseal it, or maybe she couldn't establish a deeper connection because she was still too weak. If she could meet Ming Xiao again, she could definitely ask him. She always had a feeling of spiritual harmony with this ice bangle, so she really wanted to know its secret. One often said in verbal fights my female who would refer to themselves as grandaunt, to show dominance. Just like how in Chinese, some men would say I'm your old man/father or I'm your grandfather to show dominance in a verbal fight. Likewise, females might also say I'm your mother. You're my grandson/you're a grandson is also an insult, because it calls them weak. Chapter 70. The Yi Ching Han that Yun Lan spoke of. Once one saw a row of shops side by side after passing through the other path of the markets, one would see that there were still people coming and going, but there were less hawking and trading. Lu Mu Yen and the rest walked slowly along from the first shop. When she saw things that she wanted, even if the price wasn't considered low, she would still buy them without hesitation, which made others inwardly scream that she was too prodigal. However, remembering that she not only had the huge sum of money she obtained from auctioning off the marrow cleansing pill last time, but she also currently had a flame unicorn beast's corpse with value not lower than the marrow cleansing pill, they began to feel more at ease. She indeed had the capital to be prodigal. Xiao Ziang and Yun Jin exchanged looks and couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Comparing oneself to another could definitely infuriate oneself to death. Does Mu Yen know who the girl who fought with you for the stone is? Yun Lan walked beside Lu Mu Yen and asked with worry in his voice. The moment Lu Mu Yen heard his tone, she guessed that he definitely knew, so she smiled indicatively and asked, I don't really know, but it seems that cousin knows? She's from one of the 10 distinguished clans of the eastern region, the Xian clan's third young miss and the daughter of the main wife, Xian Ingxian. Because her talents were exceptional, so she's highly valued by the Xian clan. Yun Lan paused, then added, she's arrogant and ostentatious and easily holds grudges. After you snatched what she wanted just now, I'm afraid she already ordered people to investigate your background. Arrogant and ostentatious? Lu Mu Yan's star-like black eyes revealed some nostalgia. Her back when she was in the spiritual world was what was considered true arrogance and ostentatious behavior. How could Xen Ingxian's restricted arrogance compare? However, that woman definitely wasn't an idiot, so it was best to guard against her in the future. Xian clan? Is it one of the 10 distinguished clans like maternal grandpa's Ling clan? Speaking of the Xian clan, Lu Mu Yen remembered what her mother said that day. Wasn't Xian clan one of the main clans that dropped stones on the Ling clan who had fallen into a well one and suppressed them on purpose? Yun Lan nodded. That's right. But now, because Xen Ingxian's father had advanced to a sword sovereign expert, plus the plundering of the Ling clan's resources over the recent years, the Xian clan's ranking already leapt to number 5 among the 10 distinguished clans. The Ling clan was Lu Mu Yan's maternal grandfather's family, so he didn't want to conceal anything from her. The main reason that he didn't stop Lu Mu Yen, even though he clearly knew that Xian Ingxian wasn't someone they should offend, was because the two were bound to become enemies due to their clans. Stepping on the Ling clan to climb to the top, it must taste great. Let's just let them enjoy the satisfaction of standing on high grounds a little longer. Lu Mu Yan's eyes were full of coldness. Wasn't falling from a high place even worse? No wonder when she first met Xen Ingxian earlier, she had a premonition that she would forge a great feud with her. So it was because their identities already determined that they would become enemies. How's the relationship between Xian Ingxian and Xueling? Lu Mu Yen asked, raising her eyes to look at Yun Lan. The situations concerning the 10 distinguished clans couldn't be obtained through investigations, and the general's mansion didn't know much either, so only someone like Yun Lan, a child who was highly valued by the Imperial family, could possibly know something. The Xian clan and the Shui clan have secretly cooperated for many years and their relationship's very good, but despite both being the daughter of the main wife, with excelling talents in their respective families, their relationship isn't compatible, to the point it was as if they were like fire and water, and they even clashed a few times. Yunlan naturally knew about how Xueling had annulled the engagement with Ling Fei Yang and considered Xueling to be very lowly in his eyes. They're both women favored by the heavens, so they'll definitely always compare themselves to the other, so it's natural they didn't like each other. Lu Mu Yen shrugged her shoulders with a smile. She only came into contact with Exen Xian for a short moment just now, but it wasn't hard to see that within the woman's arrogance, there carried a sense of viciousness. With such a temperament, it was natural that she didn't get along with a person she compared herself to, like Xue Lin, who was also a woman favored by the heavens. Not only did they clash because of this, but I've heard that they even secretly fought for the sake of a man. Yunlan revealed a rare look of interest in gossip. Lu Mu Yen didn't think that the two had such a grudge against each other and was slightly curious about what sort of man was able to make the two of them scramble for him, completely disregarding their own face. Fought for a man? Number 2 of the 10 distinguished clans, the Yi clan's young lord, Yi Qinghan. When Yunlan mentioned the name Yi Qinghan, a slight smile flashed through his eyes. Pew! Yi Qinghan? Lu Mu Yen couldn't help but laugh aloud. She really couldn't imagine Yi Qinghan being fought over by 2 women. Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site. Thanks, she believed that such an image was just too beautiful that she simply couldn't bear to look directly at it too. What's wrong? Yunlan was a little surprised and confused by Lu Mu Yan's reaction. Lu Mu Yen held back her gloating smile and shook her head. Nothing. Then did Yi Qinghan choose one of the 2? Of course he didn't. Yi Qinghan's eyes aren't that bad. Yunlan's tone was definitive. Lu Mu Yen discovered that when Yunlan mentioned Yi Qinghan, there was an indescribable emotion in his words. It wasn't like speaking of an enemy, but it wasn't like a friend either. Do you know Yi Qinghan? You believe his eyesight this much? I've met him a few times before. He's always been a person I wanted to surpass. Yunlan smiled softly. He was defeated by Yi Qinghan twice, and was unhappy within, but he had the determination to surpass that person. Person you want to surpass? You sure think highly of him. Speaking of Yi Qinghan, Lu Mu Yen also unconsciously revealed slight warmth in her eyes. It could be considered that he was the first friend she made after coming to this world. Yunlan nodded with a smile. That's right. He's a very good virtual opponent 3. His talent is definitely stronger than your elder brother and not weaker. Hearing Yunlan think so highly of Yi Qingyan, Lu Mu Yen nodded. Last time at the Blazing Mountain Range, she was certain Yi Qinghan still concealed quite a bit of his strength. Yi Qinghan definitely would participate in the competition to vie for one of the quotas between the 10 distinguished clans, so they would most likely meet in the Glacial Mountain Range. She guessed that the Yi Qingyan, after taking the marrow cleansing pill, should have already broken through to the strength of a Sword King. What tray you two muttering there about? Xiao Ziong walked over beside the two and said as he looked at Lu Mu Yen, come and see what you think about this spiritual herb? Ever since Xiao Ziong knew that Lu Mu Yen was a grade 1 alchemist and had a powerful alchemist master, his attitude towards her had improved. It wasn't because of the master behind her, but it was simply because it felt as if they were like-minded people. Lu Mu Yen didn't dislike people like Xiao Ziong, who was straightforward and crude, as she followed him to the counter to choose a few spiritual herbs. Then they wandered around all the shops, but they didn't gain as much as they did in the free trade zone. Although Lu Mu Yen did manage to buy a few spiritual herbs required for some pills, but she didn't meet any previous, high-level spiritual herbs. After exiting the markets, and after Lu Mu Yen and Yunlan discussed the promised alliance with each other in the Glacial Mountain Range, Lu Mu Yen took Huashao and left with Lu Mu Bai. Qi Yixian didn't thicken his face and follow. He also knew that Lu Mu Yen had things to discuss with Huashao and it was inconvenient for him to interfere. Qi Yixian had a fairly good relationship with Yunlan and the others, so he was also invited to be a part of the alliance. After parting ways with Lu Mu Yen, he went to the inn where Yunjin and the others stayed to discuss the matter of the alliance. Except the bitterness in his heart only grew stronger. He clenched his fists tightly. When facing Lu Mu Yen, who was becoming more and more outstanding, he began to feel pressured. Regardless, the most important thing right now was to improve his strength and take a trial place for himself. He was only qualified to have Lu Mu Yen if he was stronger than her. 1 idiom meaning to hit a person when they're down. 2 it's sarcastic, just in case people didn't catch up on that, but I think I made it clear XD. Yes, indeed, it will simply be too beautiful to look at. 3 he means that when he cultivates and trains, he can imagine Yi Qing Han as an opponent and imagine battling him to improve himself. So kinda virtual. Random note, somewhat questionable thought at the end there, Qi Xian, but typical you. Good luck with that XD. Hey, race the chapter, better late than never. Enjoy. Chapter 71. Lead Huashao by the nose. Lu Mu Yen took Huashao to the inn where the academy's students stayed, found a vacant room, and set up a soundproof array. Then she took out a pot of spiritual tea and poured a cup for Lu Mu Bai and Huashao each. After passing the teacup to Huashao, she asked him, "What's your name?" Huashao. Huashao stared at the golden, rich, and fragrant spiritual tea, held it to the tip of his nose and sniffed with an intoxicated expression, taking a sip as if it simply wasn't enough. Great tea. The corner of Lu Mu Yan's mouth couldn't help but twitch upon seeing Huashao look as if he had never seen anything good in his entire life. Didn't they say smithing and alchemy were extremely wealthy professions? How could this person look as if he had never seen this world before? How old are you? 36. Huashao sipped the spiritual tea in small mouthfuls while answering the boring questions posed by the woman opposite. Lu Mu Yen looked at him from head to toe. His hair was loose and untamed, covering most of his face, was dressed in sloppy clothes, and there was even some dirt on this man's body. With such a rough appearance, he didn't look like he had the vitality a 30-something-year-old man should have. Huashao also noticed the woman's look of disapproval, looked down at his clothes, then laughed dryly. I was refining a spirit treasure, and when I came out of my workshop, I ran straight to the market to set up a stall, so I didn't fix myself. Lu Mu Yen nodded and continued to ask, "You're a grade 3 smith, right? How do you know?" Huashao, who was drinking tea, raised his head suddenly and looked at Lu Mu Yen in surprise and confusion. He only broke through to a grade 3 smith last month. No one else knew about this, so how did this woman discover it? Of course it's because I could see it. Lu Mu Yen smiled beautifully and inadvertently revealed a confident look. Huashao looked at the confident and lively woman opposite and furrowed his brows. Impossible. The level of a smith couldn't be seen like someone's cultivation base. I don't believe it. Is there a very faint black line on your left middle finger? Lu Mu Yen asked instead of answering. Huashao immediately stretched out his left hand. Upon closer inspection, he discovered that there was indeed a black line connecting his palm to the middle finger of his hand, extending towards the first joint line. Shocked, he looked up at Lu Mu Yen and asked, "I'm poisoned?" Lu Mu Yen rolled her eyes at him and said with disapproval, "It's truly terrifying to be uncultured. As a smith, don't you know what fire poison is?" Although smiths and alchemists both often come into contact with fire, but because the spiritual herbs that alchemists refine naturally offset the toxins in the fire, so one wouldn't easily become poisoned by fire poison. Even if there was fire poison left in the body, it could be cured by a pill. Meanwhile, smiths were frequently required to refine some spars 1 or demonic beast skins, and fire is often used during the refining process. So the elemental energy flame would absorb the residual poison of those materials, which will eventually become fire poison deposited in the body. If one left it for a long time, it would bring hidden dangers to the body and even cause death by poisoning. Huashao wasn't a stupid person either. After hearing Lu Mu Yan's words, he asked, "You're saying that this black line is produced by the fire poison that's deposited in my body from refining magic tools? You judge that I'm a grade 3 smith based on this?" "Yep, it seems you aren't that stupid." Lu Mu Yen chuckled. If the fire poison accumulated in a grade 2 alchemist isn't removed, then a faint black line would slowly appear on the left middle finger. After advancing to a grade 3 smith, if the fire poison isn't removed, then the black light would extend to the first joint line of the middle finger. "What about those above grade 3? Huashao asked hurriedly. The faint black line would darken in color for those above grade 3 and slowly extend upward. After reaching a grade 4 smith, if the fire poison still hasn't been removed, then the black line will extend directly to the nail. Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site. Thanks. Lu Muyen picked up the teacup and sipped it softly. Then she raised her eyes and smiled indicatively, saying, if the black line extends to the position of the nail, it also means that the person's life is coming to an end. Huashao's face stiffened. He had heard about fire poison being harmful, but he didn't expect that it was this dangerous. He could judge that the woman sitting opposite wasn't exaggerating to scare him, but how did she know? He leaned forward a little and the faint fragrance of medicine on the opposite person's body penetrated his nose. He looked at Lu Muyen with a smile in his eyes and asked, you're a physician or alchemist? Does it have anything to do with you whether I am or not? Lu Muyen covered her nose and backed into her chair, then said with furrowed brows, stay away from me, the sour smell on your body is really too much. Huashao stretched his sleeves to his nose, smelled it, and there was indeed an unpleasant sour smell. He smiled awkwardly, I was leaving in a hurry and didn't get time to wash up. I'll go wash up tonight. You really should wash yourself well. Lu Muyen displayed some approval in her eyes. Lu Muyen didn't want to talk about being an alchemist, so Huashao didn't ask any more. He sat upright, took a few more sips of tea and continued speaking after falling silent for a while. Let's talk about the corpse of the flame unicorn beast. Sure. Do you want a whole flame unicorn beast? Lu Muyen asked, raising the corner of her lips. Of course I do. Huashao nodded. The flame unicorn beast was the best refining material he had ever seen in his life, and it perfectly fitted the main material he had desperately imagined, for a long time, to use to refine a spirit treasure with. Then show some sincerity. What would you give in exchange? Lu Muyen stroked the rim of the cup, her voice a little sharp. Huashao gritted his teeth and moved all the valuables he had from his interspatial ring to the tabletop, then said, these are all the good things I have with me. You can pick whatever you want yourself. Lu Muyen glanced at the things on the table, most of which were spar materials for smithing, and spirit tools, spirit treasures. I've got no interest in these things on the table. A look of disappointment flashed across Huashao's eyes. Although smithing was a very profitable profession, but it also consumed a vast amount of money. In order to advance to a grade 3 smith, most of his savings were spent on buying materials for refining to breakthrough, so he really couldn't take out anything good to trade. But he eagerly wanted the corpse of the flame unicorn beast, so he said, tell me, what should I do so that you'd give me the entire flame unicorn beast corpse? Oh yeah. How about I'll provide all the spirit treasures you want in the future, but the rare and hard-to-find materials need to be provided by you. Huashao added. He believed that no one could reject such a promise from a grade 3 smith. Lu Muyen raised her eyebrow and sneered, the spirit treasures you refine for me aren't even worthy to enter my eyes. When she was in the spirit world, she knew how to refine tools herself, and her level was far higher than that of Huashao's, so how could she think highly of the things Huashao refined? It just wasn't on the same level. Of course, a grade 3 smith like Huashao was of little use to her, but was extremely useful to the Lu clan, otherwise she wouldn't set up this trap for Huashao to jump in willingly. Huashao's confident smile immediately cracked and slight anger rose in his eyes. He slammed the table and shouted, what? You look down on the spirit treasures I refine? Do you know what kind of existence a grade 3 smith is? What kind of existence? Lu Muyen asked with folded arms and a smile of interest. In the entire eastern region, the highest level of smithing is only grade 4, and there'll be no more than 4 people. Although there are a little more grade 3 smiths, but there won't be more than 20. Huashao snorted coldly, if I go out now and join a random kingdom, force, or clan at will, they'd all worship me as a super guest. The magic tools I refine would be even more desirable than that by numerous people. You tell me what kind of existence a grade 3 smith is? Lu Muyen lowered her head and chuckled, then picked up a shield made by Huashao on the table and said nonchalantly, so what about a grade 3 smith? There are still very big flaws in the spirit treasures you've refined. 1 changed crystals to spar. Chapter 72. Take as im master. Hearing the word flaw, Huashao's body froze, and he looked at Lu Mu Yen with a complicated look. Smiths cherished every single magic tool they refined themselves. He was obsessed with smithing, and although he had an arrogant side, he could also receive teachings with humbleness. Can you tell what sort of flaws there are on this spirit treasure? They'll be convinced if you can tell me. Lu Mu Yen put away her smiles and her expression grew more serious. You lacked a material when you were refining the shield, and the heat in several places weren't controlled that well, so this can only count as a low-level spirit treasure. You can see what materials I lacked when refining just like that? Huashao looked at her incredulously. He discovered that he had belittled this woman too much before. Lu Mu Yen raised an eyebrow. How difficult is that? What's missing is the profound ice jade. The biggest flaw of your shield is that it can't withstand ice attacks. If it met a high-level swordmaster who uses ice attributes very skillfully, then your shield would become a useless burden. Then the heat in several places that weren't controlled well could also be told by looking at it? Huashao asked eagerly. Since he first came into contact with smithing, he mostly taught and explored this area by himself based on his excellent smithing talent, so he did indeed lack some skill in controlling the heat. While refining this spirit treasure shield, he made 3 mistakes when controlling the heat, so he really wanted to hear Lu Mu Yan's opinion. Lu Mu Yan picked up the shield and turned it to the innermost side. She pointed to a dark cyan line and said, "The overall shield body is cyan in color, but the cyan here is much darker, indicating that the firepower used during the second solidification of the shield was too strong." Then she pointed to an inconspicuous faint red light on the shield and said, "When you added the fire attribute spar and other materials to dissolve together, the firepower was slightly weaker, so the fusion here wasn't the best. Then look at this. The edges of the shield aren't smooth, indicating that your mentality wasn't relaxed enough when the shield was being formed. Because of your eagerness, the firepower was a bit high, which caused slight jaggedness on the side. That's roughly about it for the problems with the heat for this shield." Lu Mu Yen took this seriously and said with a tone of disapproval, "If I were you, I wouldn't refine this shield spirit treasure without the profound ice jade. Not only did you waste a lot of materials, but the quality of the shield was also lowered by 2 levels. When Lu Mu Yen said it so seriously, Huashao's previous anger dissipated, and his eyes were full of shock. He was completely stunned by her. Her tone when speaking about smithing were as if she were familiar with it. She must be a mid-high level expert. So his old face blushed. "My shield was made at the time to advance to a grade 3 smith, and at the time I just couldn't find the profound ice jade, so I made do. What's the purpose of advancing? Naturally, it's to improve your smithing ability." When Lu Mu Yen spoke about professional matters, she unconsciously displayed a natural seriousness and self-confidence. The fundamental thing for smiths is to refine every magic tool to as close to perfection as possible with their heart. You definitely can't make do. If you do that often, then how would you be able to find the perfect opportunity to break through to an even higher level? You're not in the right mentality to begin with. With this, you can't go far. Huashao listened carefully and discovered that Lu Mu Yen wasn't like a 16 or 17-year-old girl at all right now. Instead, she felt like a veteran smith, calm and leisurely. He couldn't help but be convinced by the words she said as well. "Yes, that's right. I used to be too smug." Huashao nodded with enlightenment. Lu Mu Yen was right. He became a little proud and complacent ever since he broke through to a grade 2 smith. In order to advance to a grade 3 smith faster, he did give up some of the principles he used to adhere to. After being analyzed so frankly by her, he felt as if he had been struck and enlightened, but at the same time, he felt fear in hindsight. If he really continued to walk on the current path, his future achievements would peak at a grade 4 smith, which was far from his goal. "Thank you, young Miss Lu, for your advice. I've noted this favor." If Huashao thought that Lu Mu Yen was young and frivolous before and belittled her, then he was sincerely grateful now. Lu Mu Yen was very satisfied with Huashao's change. This person could still be taught, no need. Let's continue to talk about the trade now. Wait, can I ask young Miss Lu a question first? Huashao's expression displayed a somewhat indescribable and complicated look. Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site. Thanks. Lu Mu Yen smiled, yet not quite smiled at him, and said, Ask. Is young Miss Lu a smith? I'm not quite a smith right now. She had never refined any magic tools ever since coming here, so technically she still wasn't considered a smith. Huo looked at Lu Mu Yen, dumbfounded. Not a smith? As if that could be true. Then you understand smithing? Lu Mu Yen rolled her eyes at him. Nonsense, if I don't understand smithing, then how could I point out the flaws in your shield? Can you ask some deeper questions? Huo pursed his lips inwardly. The questions you asked me before didn't have much depth. Huo suddenly stood up and bowed to Lu Mu Yen, with a serious expression on his face and firmness in his eyes. Young Miss Lu, I want you to be my master, please accept me. Huo's attitude suddenly reversed, looking at Lu Mu Yen sincerely as if saying, if you don't accept me, I'll let you see how I die. Lu Mu Yen held her forehead. She truly didn't know what sort of brain circuit Huo had. She just casually said some simple things and suddenly he wanted to take her as his master. Maybe I don't know as much as you, so wouldn't it be a disadvantage for you to take me as your master? Lu Mu Yen said, teasing. Huo shook his head. From the moment you looked at the shield I refined, I found that your proficiency in smithing is better than me. Even if you aren't a smith now, but I believe that you understand more things than I do. He was obsessed with the art of smithing, even if he had almost lost his way on the path of a smith because of his arrogance and complacency. But he was a modest and studious person. This young woman completely convinced him, so he was willing to sincerely ask Lu Mu Yen to become his master. He could tell that she understood far more than him. Lu Mu Yen stroked her chin to look like she was contemplating, and then exchanged a look with Lu Mu Bai. Seeing the approval in the other's eyes, a smile of success rose on her lips. Originally, according to her plan, she only wanted to take Huo under her wing and let him refine magic tools for the Lu clan. But she didn't expect Huo to want to take her as his master after being taught a lesson by her. After analyzing the advantages and disadvantages, she felt that it was a waste not to accept a grade 3 smith as a disciple. In this world where teachers were highly respected, a relationship with a disciple was much more solid and reliable than a relationship with collaborators. Have you taken other people as masters? Never. Since I became a smith, I've been studying it myself. A touch of amazement flashed by Lu Mu Yan's eyes. It seemed that Huo's talent for refining wasn't just strong. He could have such an achievement without a master, and having been self-taught, she really picked up a huge bargain. Although I know a lot of smithing methods, but I don't know how to teach you. Maybe you should change a teacher. Lu Mu Yen pretended to shirk. Huo's eyes lit up when he heard the phrase I know a lot of smithing methods, and directly knelt down in front of Lu Mu Yen, saying respectfully, Master, please accept this disciple. If he could take a great person as a master, kneeling was only a small matter. Lu Mu Yen was taken aback by his actions and immediately dragged him up. She really didn't like others kneeling down to her. All right, I'll accept you as my disciple for the time being. We'll make it 3 years. If you want to back out afterwards, I'll allow it. Although she set a trap for Huo to crawl into, but she didn't like to force others. However, she believed that after 3 years, Huo would definitely be a proper, obedient disciple. All right. Huo didn't expect this cunning woman to have such a considerate side, and his heart grew more sincere. He just felt that today's choice would be the wisest decision made in his entire life. The two high-fived in representation of their alliance. Huo formally became Lu Mu Yan's disciple, and since then, embarked on a path of smithing full of oppression and exploitation, yet he felt both pain and joy in it. The Glacial Mountain Range was located in the southeast of Glacial City. The entire mountain range undulated continuously, and no matter from which angle, there was no end to it, only a piece of white. After reaching the entrance of the Glacial Mountain Range, everyone walked into the mountain range. Lu Mu Yen, why did you wear white clothes today? Lan Si knew that Lu Mu Yen usually wore all styles of light purple, so when she suddenly changed into white clothes today, it made her even more beautiful with an elegant and refined temperament. He was secretly amazed. Lu Muyen shrugged and said, I don't want to be a living target. Didn't teacher also change your clothes to light blue? I also don't want to be a living target. Lan Si wasn't fazed by her questioning him, and an elegant smile rose on his handsome face. Exactly. Lu Muyen discovered that Lan Si was a fox that wore an elegant skin, and was also extremely bored. Along the way, from time to time, they encountered groups of mercenaries or individual adventurers in the glacial mountain range. They just looked at each other and left separately. In such a dangerous place, everyone rarely spoke with unfamiliar people. After walking for around more than 2 hours, they completely entered the periphery of the glacial mountain range. The glacial mountain range was the same as the other treacherous zones. They're divided into the periphery, outer ring, the border between the outer ring and the inner ring and the center ring. With your cultivation base, you can only move in the border between the outer ring and inner ring. You must not go deep into the inner ring and the center ring, otherwise you'll most likely not return and be left with no corpse. Lan Si introduced the situation of the glacial mountain range to everyone as they walked. The border between the outer ring and the inner ring mostly has Tier 5 demonic beasts, but from time to time, there'll be higher-level demonic beasts appearing. When you encounter them, the first thing to do is run. Don't feel embarrassed by it, the most important thing is to save your life. And the inner ring of the glacial mountain range is where even I don't dare go deep. That's Tier 6 demonic beasts territory. The kings of the demonic beasts occupy their own areas, and if someone accidentally breaks into their territory, then their end will definitely be miserable. Lan Si wore a joking smile on his lips. Of course, if you don't believe me, you can go try it. Take responsibility for the outcome yourself though. Teacher, then which ring are we training in? The outer ring? A student couldn't help but ask. Lan Si glanced at him and smiled, saying, Do you think that's possible? The trial isn't as simple as you think, so the place where you'll participate in the trial is the border between the outer ring and the inner ring. But except for upperclassman Lu, the strongest amongst is us only at peak phase sword spirit. The border between the outer ring and the inner ring is where Tier 5 demonic beasts roam. If we encounter them, it'll be difficult to run. Another student said, concerned. Are you afraid of death? Lan Si suddenly asked the people present before answering. Not afraid. The 11 people said in unison, but their voices weren't the same in firmness and magnitude. Lan Si smiled meaningfully, but what he said was like a knife. Exactly. The trial isn't an ordinary experience organized by the Academy. You could lose your little life at any time, so you really must be careful. You need to make keeping yourselves alive the main thing at any moment. If you emerge above the rest this time, you'll still face danger or death at any time when you participate in the tournament for hegemony. This was the path of the strong. Then Lan Si's tone switched and he put away his smile, replacing it with an unprecedented seriousness. Of course, if some of you are afraid of encountering danger, the fact that you die anywhere, without even a burial, then you can still withdraw now. Hearing this, a few people turned pale and showed some expressions of struggles. In the end, the huge benefits behind the trial lead them to decide not to withdraw. Very well. Since you've chosen to take the risks, then show me what the Academy students should look like. Don't discredit the Academy. Lan Si changed from his usual gentleness to a very serious expression. Yes. Everyone promised. Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site. Thanks. After that, Lan Si cautioned the students about what things to pay attention to in the glacial mountain range, then led them quickly in their journey. After around half a day, according to the time, it should be nighttime, but the glacial mountain range was still as bright as daylight. There wasn't any difference between day or night in the glacial mountain range, only endless days, and one had to judge the time by themselves. When everyone arrived at the foot of a low-lying snow-capped mountain, Lan Si took out a bamboo piece, placed it in his mouth and blew it. Several sweet but not too loud sounds echoed in the open mountain. Not long after, the same sound rang from halfway up the mountain. Lan Si waved his hand and led everyone up the mountain. When they reached the middle of the mountain, they found that there was a huge hidden cave here. After entering the cave, they found that there was a place of uniqueness. There was a stone door deep in the cave, and after entering the stone door, one could see that there was a nicely arranged hall. In the innermost side of the hall, there was another closed wooden door. There were a dozen people sitting in the hall at this time, including an elderly man with white hair in plain clothes that sat in the main seat. Lu Muyan's eyes revealed a touch of understanding. This white-haired old man was Imperial teacher Yun Song of Yenzhou Kingdom. To get him to lead the trial, it could be seen that the trial in the glacial mountain range was highly valued by the superiors of Yenzhou Kingdom. Greetings to Imperial teacher. Lan Si and the other 3 instructors walked in front of Yun Song and greeted respectfully. Upon seeing this, Lu Muyan and the others also stepped forward to bow to Yun Song. Sit down. Yun Kan pointed to more than a dozen vacant seats that had been prepared on the other side. Yes. After Lu Muyan sat down, she observed the trial team of the Imperial family and discovered that there were 12 of them. Among them were many faces she had never seen before, and their strength was far higher than the students of the Imperial Academy. Among all the people present here, her strength was the lowest, at peak phase Great Sword Master Cultivation base. It was definitely the weakest. Of course, in terms of combat power, she believed she wouldn't lose to all those who participated in the trial. While they were observing the Imperial trial team, they were also observing them. When they saw Lu Muyan, several people hadn't seen her before, not to mention seen her battle at the Imperial Academy, all revealed some contempt and incomprehension. Imperial teacher, I never knew that in such a dangerous trial held in the glacial mountain range allowed a great sword master cultivation base person to participate? A handsome man in a white brocade robe said coldly in the Imperial Academy trial team. Lu Muyan furrowed her brows lightly. As soon as she raised her head, she met the opponent's ice-cold eyes. In that person's eyes, there wasn't any contempt, not hostility, not disgust towards her, only a calmness as if he were stating facts. Yun Zmo. This name immediately popped up in Lu Muyan's mind. He was the younger brother of the same mother as Emperor Yun Tianqin, but he was only 3 years older than Yun Lan. He and Lu Mu Bai were once considered the double pride of Yenzhou Kingdom. They were both peerless geniuses of the empire, and was the most outstanding amongst the younger generation of the empire. Yun Zmo went out for training 5 years ago, and has never returned to the imperial capital. Presumably, he came back this time for the trial quota. This man had a cold temperament and was dedicated to pursuing the pinnacle of the path of the sword. When he was 10 years old, he became famous in the eastern region, and was even comparable to the outstanding pupils of the 10 distinguished clans. Although she hadn't seen Yun Zmo himself, but Lu Muyan concluded at a glance that this man was the one that was the person in the legends. The glacial mountain range was located in the southeast of Glacial City. The entire mountain range undulated continuously, and no matter from which angle, there was no end to it, only a piece of white. After reaching the entrance of the glacial mountain range, everyone walked into the mountain range. Lu Muyan, why did you wear white clothes today? Lan Si knew that Lu Muyan usually wore all styles of light purple, so when she suddenly changed into white clothes today, it made her even more beautiful with an elegant and refined temperament. He was secretly amazed. Lu Muyan shrugged and said, I don't want to be a living target. Didn't teacher also change your clothes to light blue? I also don't want to be a living target. Lan Si wasn't fazed by her questioning him, and an elegant smile rose on his handsome face. Exactly. Lu Muyan discovered that Lan Si was a fox that wore an elegant skin, and was also extremely bored. Along the way, from time to time, they encountered groups of mercenaries or individual adventurers in the glacial mountain range. They just looked at each other and left separately. In such a dangerous place, everyone rarely spoke with unfamiliar people. After walking for around more than 2 hours, they completely entered the periphery of the glacial mountain range. The glacial mountain range was the same as the other treacherous zones. They're divided into the periphery, outer ring, the border between the outer ring and the inner ring and the center ring. With your cultivation base, you can only move in the border between the outer ring and inner ring. You must not go deep into the inner ring and the center ring, otherwise you'll most likely not return and be left with no corpse. Lan Si introduced the situation of the glacial mountain range to everyone as they walked. The border between the outer ring and the inner ring mostly has Tier 5 demonic beasts, but from time to time, there'll be higher-level demonic beasts appearing. When you encounter them, the first thing to do is run. Don't feel embarrassed by it, the most important thing is to save your life. And the inner ring of the glacial mountain range is where even I don't dare go deep. That's Tier 6 demonic beasts territory. The kings of the demonic beasts occupy their own areas, and if someone accidentally breaks into their territory, then their end will definitely be miserable. Lan Si wore a joking smile on his lips. Of course, if you don't believe me, you can go try it. Take responsibility for the outcome yourself though. Teacher, then which ring are we training in? The outer ring? A student couldn't help but ask. Lan Si glanced at him and smiled, saying, "Do you think that's possible? The trial isn't as simple as you think, so the place where you'll participate in the trial is the border between the outer ring and the inner ring." But except for upperclassman Lu, the strongest amongst is us only at peak phase sword spirit. The border between the outer ring and the inner ring is where Tier 5 demonic beasts roam. If we encounter them, it'll be difficult to run. Another student said, concerned. Are you afraid of death? Lan Si suddenly asked the people present before answering. Not afraid. The 11 people said in unison, but their voices weren't the same in firmness and magnitude. Lan Si smiled meaningfully, but what he said was like a knife. Exactly. The trial isn't an ordinary experience organized by the Academy. You could lose your little life at any time, so you really must be careful. You need to make keeping yourselves alive the main thing at any moment. If you emerge above the rest this time, you'll still face danger or death at any time when you participate in the tournament for hegemony. This was the path of the strong. Then Lan Si's tone switched and he put away his smile, replacing it with an unprecedented seriousness. Of course, if some of you are afraid of encountering danger, the fact that you die anywhere, without even a burial, then you can still withdraw now. Hearing this, a few people turned pale and showed some expressions of struggles. In the end, the huge benefits behind the trial lead them to decide not to withdraw. Very well. Since you've chosen to take the risks, then show me what the Academy students should look like. Don't discredit the Academy. Lan Si changed from his usual gentleness to a very serious expression. Yes. Everyone promised. Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site. Thanks. After that, Lan Si cautioned the students about what things to pay attention to in the glacial mountain range, then led them quickly in their journey. After around half a day, according to the time, it should be nighttime, but the glacial mountain range was still as bright as daylight. There wasn't any difference between day or night in the glacial mountain range, only endless days, and one had to judge the time by themselves. When everyone arrived at the foot of a low-lying snow-capped mountain, Lan Si took out a bamboo piece, placed it in his mouth and blew it. Several sweet but not too loud sounds echoed in the open mountain. Not long after, the same sound rang from halfway up the mountain. Lan Si waved his hand and led everyone up the mountain. When they reached the middle of the mountain, they found that there was a huge hidden cave here. After entering the cave, they found that there was a place of uniqueness. There was a stone door deep in the cave, and after entering the stone door, one could see that there was a nicely arranged hall. In the innermost side of the hall, there was another closed wooden door. There were a dozen people sitting in the hall at this time, including an elderly man with white hair in plain clothes that sat in the main seat. Lu Muyan's eyes revealed a touch of understanding. This white-haired old man was Imperial teacher Yun Song of Yanzhou Kingdom. To get him to lead the trial, it could be seen that the trial in the glacial mountain range was highly valued by the superiors of Yanzhou Kingdom. Greetings to Imperial teacher. Lan Si and the other 3 instructors walked in front of Yun Song and greeted respectfully. Upon seeing this, Lu Muyan and the others also stepped forward to bow to Yun Song. Sit down. Yun Kan pointed to more than a dozen vacant seats that had been prepared on the other side. Yes. After Lu Muyen sat down, she observed the trial team of the Imperial family and discovered that there were 12 of them. Among them were many faces she had never seen before, and their strength was far higher than the students of the Imperial Academy. Among all the people present here, her strength was the lowest, at peak phase Great Sword Master Cultivation base. It was definitely the weakest. Of course, in terms of combat power, she believed she wouldn't lose to all those who participated in the trial. While they were observing the Imperial trial team, they were also observing them. When they saw Lu Muyen, several people hadn't seen her before, not to mention seen her battle at the Imperial Academy, all revealed some contempt and incomprehension. Imperial teacher, I never knew that in such a dangerous trial held in the glacial mountain range allowed a great sword master cultivation base person to participate? A handsome man in a white brocade robe said coldly in the Imperial Academy trial team. Lu Muyen furrowed her brows lightly. As soon as she raised her head, she met the opponent's ice-cold eyes. In that person's eyes, there wasn't any contempt, not hostility, not disgust towards her, only a calmness as if he were stating facts. Yun Zmo. This name immediately popped up in Lu Muyen's mind. He was the younger brother of the same mother as Emperor Yun Tianchen, but he was only 3 years older than Yun Lan. He and Lu Mu Bai were once considered the double pride of Yanzhou Kingdom. They were both peerless geniuses of the empire, and was the most outstanding amongst the younger generation of the empire. Yun Zmo went out for training 5 years ago, and has never returned to the imperial capital. Presumably, he came back this time for the trial quota. This man had a cold temperament and was dedicated to pursuing the pinnacle of the path of the sword. When he was 10 years old, he became famous in the eastern region, and was even comparable to the outstanding pupils of the 10 distinguished clans. Although she hadn't seen Yun Zmo himself, but Lu Muyen concluded at a glance that this man was the one that was the person in the legends. The moment Yun Zmo's voice fell, everyone in the room cast their gazes to Lu Muyen. Lu Mu Bei's expression darkened slightly and his brows furrowed together unhappily. Just when he wanted to speak, Lu Muyen tugged his sleeve to stop him. Do you mean Lu Muyen? She won the first place in the freshman's Earth class, and she obtained the place with her own abilities. Among the people sitting here, only Lu Muyen was at the Great Sword Master Cultivation stage. Who Yun Zmo was referring to was evident, so Yun Song explained with an amicable expression. After thinking a little, he added, she defeated a middle-phase sword spirit strength student. Yun Zmo raised his eyes and glanced at Lu Muyen coldly, nodded to Yun Song and stopped talking. Yun Song knew what sort of temperament Yun Zmo had, but he also didn't want Lu Muyen to misunderstand him. The Imperial family still wanted to exchange the marrow cleansing pill from Lu Muyen for Yun Zmo to use in preparation for the continental tournament for hegemony. He couldn't let any misunderstandings form between the two. Lu girl, Zmo is your captain for the selection trial this time, so he also asked this out of consideration for safety reasons. Don't think too much into it. Yun Zhang looked at Lu Muyen with an amicable smile. Lu Muyen sneered. Just say that you're afraid I'll be holding everyone back, why make it sound so pompous? There was a smile yet not quite a smile on her lips. Although she knew Yun Zmo didn't deliberately target herself, but this sort of roundabout way of saying she would hold everyone back still made her unhappy. Who knew who's be the one to hold others back? Her words that left no face made the expressions of many people change. Yun Zmo was the #1 cultivator among the younger generation in the empire, and he had an extremely cold temperament. Almost no one dared to provoke him, not to mention choke him like this. They didn't know whether it was because Lu Muyen had nothing to fear as she had a strong backing, or because she didn't know any better. Being young sure made one courageous. I sure do not like to hear such words you've said, young Miss Lu. My young royal uncle is also thinking for everyone's safety. He only spoke the truth. Why are you this angry? A yellow-clothed woman who sat beside Yun Xen revealed a look of displeasure when looking at Lu Muyen. Her meaning was very clear. You were the one to hold us back. What my royal uncle said was right, so now you're only angry because you feel guilty. They were all elites amongst the younger generation. In order to participate in the trial competition, They had all been in closed-door cultivation until now, so they didn't watch the grand competition. In her eyes, Lu Muyen was still the well-known trash of the empire. It must been mostly luck to be able to defeat a sword spirit student. Spoke the truth. With which eye of yours did you see that it'll be dragging you guys down? Or maybe your younger royal uncle has the ability to predict the future. If you just pulled a guess out from thin air, then please keep your mouth shut. Lu Muyen sneered. I'll keep my own life safe during the trial, so I won't need you elites of the empire to be concerned about it. Although Lan Isai had warned them that if they caused trouble for themselves, which end up taking their own lives, then they must take responsibility for that themselves. She knew that to be the truth, but the superiors of Yenzhou Kingdom wouldn't, as much as possible, let those that participated in the trial to die. And Yun Zmo, expectedly, should be one of the people from the two teams they would have secretly ordered to take care of in the trial. Her choosing to participate in the trial meant that she naturally had certainty of success. At the very least, she wouldn't be worse off than anyone in this room in terms of having life-saving skills. She didn't need anyone to protect her. Facing Yun Zmo's doubts, Lu Muyen actually wasn't that angry. She felt that Yun Zmo didn't have malicious intent towards her, and instead, it was the other members of the Imperial team that looked down on her greatly. Except, after coming to this world, she had already grown accustomed to these strange eyes she occasionally received. The reason why she deliberately created conflict and counterattacked was so that she could more conveniently facilitate the implementation of her plan. She came to the Glacial Mountain Range not only to participate in the trial, but also because she had a very important thing to do, that is, to find the deep orchid and refine the foundation establishment pill. When that time came, it was naturally impossible to act with these people. That's what you said, don't regret it when the time comes. Yun Gu smiled with ridicule and looked down upon Lu Muyen with extreme disdain. Yun Gu, shut up. Yun Lan furrowed his brows and berated roughly, suddenly feeling a sense of disgust towards this younger sister of a different mother. Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site. Thanks. Yun Gu didn't expect that his royal brother would scold her for Lu Muyen's sake, revealed an unconvinced expression, but didn't say anything again. Lu Muyen can go and seek death as long as it didn't implicate them. It wasn't like she would help her anyways. In the Imperial team, all but Yun Lan cast looks of hostility towards Lu Muyen. Yun Zmo was their legend, was their object of worship, and they couldn't tolerate Lu Muyen belittling and slandering him so. Yun Zmo remained sitting coldly and expressionlessly, providing no indication of anything. He didn't mean to look down on Lu Muyen, nor did he believe that she would hold them back. He simply routinely asked the members of the trial teams about their situation. The cultivation base that Lu Muyen displayed was only a great swordmaster. With such strength, it was extremely dangerous to do missions in the border between the outer ring and the inner ring. To be more precise, it was impossible to stay alive. He meant for it to be a reminder but ended up blundering. However, his temper was always cold, so he didn't intend to explain. This time, he not only had to participate in the trial to compete for a place, but he also shouldered the responsibility of looking after other people as much as he could. He couldn't be willful, so no matter what Lu Muyen said, if she was really in danger, he would still take action. Yun Song took a deep look at Yun Gu and already had determined the result of her trial in his heart. Alright, I'm going to talk about the rules of the trial now. Yun Song understood not to mention what happened just now. It was useless to say any more, and he could only hope that Lu Muyen wouldn't hold a grudge against Yun Zmo because of such a trivial matter. In the trial, between your two teams, you would compete for the 6 quotas that allowed you to participate in the Continental Tournament for Hegemony. And your trial this time was divided into 3 main segments. First, all of you will set off from here and head for the border between the outer ring and the inner rind of the Glacial Mountain Range, during which no internal fighting is allowed. Second, after arriving, you can freely form teams and complete 2 missions each. Those that don't complete them will be eliminated. And third, the remaining people could still form teams freely, and the 6 people who have completed the final mission will be the winners. The content of the missions will be told to you by this old man when arrive at the given locations on the outer and inner rings of the Glacial Mountain Range. Yun Song glanced sharply at the two teams and said with a stern warning, "You are allowed to snatch any mission article from anyone in the trial, but you are never allowed to deliberately kill each other. Offenders will be killed without mercy." These trial rules were all set to adapt to the Continental Tournament for hegemony. Allowing them to form teams was so that the future six could adjust to and support each other when they enter the tournament for hegemony and compete with players from other countries. While allowing the trial members to compete with each other was so that they could understand the cruelty of the world and better train their resilience and mind. "Yes," everyone replied in unison. "Don't be relying on luck. Even the periphery of the glacial mountain range is extremely dangerous. Everything you do should sit on the premise that you are kept alive. Don't force anything." Yun Clan panned the room and emphasized the issue of safety again. The people who sat here were all outstanding among the younger generation of Yenzhou Kingdom. He didn't wish anyone to fall after the trial, and even if it was unavoidable, he hoped to at least minimize the loss. "Yes." Early tomorrow morning, the few instructors will lead you all to the border of the outer and inner ring of the glacial mountain range first. Yun Zmo will be the captain of your first segment. You must follow his every command. Do you have any problems with that? Yun Song's look relaxed somewhat as he asked. "No." Then dismissed. "Go have a good rest." "Yes, Imperial teacher." Early the next morning, Lu Mu Yen and the others left the cave dwelling and hurried towards the outskirts of the glacial mountain range. Along the way, they saw a vast expanse of white surrounding them. The entire forest was dressed in white, and so quiet that there weren't even any sounds of birds. After half a day, the snowflakes gradually fell from the sky, and when it touched one's body or face, it was so cold that it made one shudder. It even hurt. "Everyone, use an elemental energy shield." Lan Si stopped in his steps, and a light green circle of light encased his entire body. The falling snowflakes slipped from the circle of light and could no longer get close to their bodies. When other people saw this, they quickly mobilized the elemental energy within them, then 5 or 6 different colored elemental energy circles of light lit up, forming a scenic view within the vast snowy land. What Lu Mu Yen mobilized was the fire attribute elemental energy circle of light. She could comprehend all the elements of this land, but the one she was most adept in and had the deepest comprehension of was the fire elemental energy. Flakes of snow drifted down petal by petal, and before it could near her, the shield of light would melt it into droplets of water that fell to the floor. This scene also fell into the eyes of many attentive people. There were 3 instructors from the Imperial family that lead the team with Lan Si, with the main lead being a person named Yunji. He scrutinized the mountain not far away. This snow really came at the time wrong. "Let's go to that mountain and find a place to rest first." Lan Si and the rest nodded in agreement. Snowflakes such as these that were corrosive shouldn't be allowed to make contact with the skin for long periods of time, otherwise one would be inflicted with the cold poison. If one wanted to resist, one needed to use their elemental energy circle of light shield to protect their body. But in such a dangerous place, continuously using elemental energy within them not only meant that it would be quickly exhausted, but if one encountered a demonic beast attack, they would all be in danger. The snow fell heavier and heavier, and the energy of the elemental energy circle of light that everyone used to resist the corrosion was constantly being strengthened. Gradually, everyone's strength couldn't match their desire to protect themselves. Luckily, in the last 2 hours, they finally found a big cave on a hillside. Lan Si and Yun I went in first to investigate, and after they came out, they called everyone in. This cave is very deep. We went in for a long time, but we still haven't reached the end. We'll rest here for now and wait for the heavy snow to recede, then continue on our way. All of you, quickly replenish your elemental energy. Lan Si's eyes were deep, without his usual gentle smile, and a rare look of gravity surfaced on his face. "Yes." After walking with the elemental energy shield for so long, whether it was the students' physical strength of elemental energy, they were all depleted by a lot. Everyone sat down and began to absorb the spiritual force of heaven and earth to replenish themselves. Lan Si and the 6 other instructors left 2 of them to guard against emergencies at the front and the back and recovered their elemental energy in rotation. After sitting down, Lu Mu Yen raised her head and looked deeply at the cave that she could see no end to, and an ominous feeling rose in her heart without warning. She didn't sit cross-legged like the rest to enter a state and absorb spiritual force to replenish her elemental energy, but instead directly took out the candy from Lan Si and threw them into her mouth in one breath. Then she telepathically told Lu Mu Bai to also eat the candy first to replenish their elemental energy. When the sweet scent of the candy pill spread, the others noticed the actions of the brother and sister. Lan Si couldn't help but twitch the corner of his lips. Did this brother and sister pair seriously take what he gave them as candy? The Imperial Academy students all knew what the candy was, and they looked at them with eyes that expressed "my flesh hurt one, what prodigals?" Forget about Lu Mu Yen the prodigal girl acting crazy. Why was Lu Mu Bai also following in the nonsense? These things should naturally be used during a critical time. It was just a waste to eat it now. Of course, in a while, they wouldn't think this way, and they would all regret how they didn't imitate the brother and sister pair. The members of the Imperial family also noticed the actions of the brother and sister pair. Although they didn't understand, they didn't think about it so as not to be distracted, and soon entered the cultivation recovery mode. After Lu Mu Yen finished eating the candy, the elemental energy in her body was quickly replenished. There wasn't any need to recover using meditation, so she stood up and walked to the edge of the cave, grabbed a handful of dirt and smelled it. Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site. Thanks. This behavior made Lan Si very curious. He looked at Lu Mu Yen distractedly while meditating and asked, "Lu Mu Yen, what tray you smelling? You can't eat this kind of dirt." Lu Mu Yen rolled her eyes at Lan Si. With which eye did he see her wanting to eat this dirt? But since they were all locusts connected by one thread too, she still reminded them as if intentionally yet also unintentionally, "Teacher, you didn't notice any peculiar smell in this cave?" Peculiar smell? Lan Si was surprised, then sniffed around everywhere, and gradually also felt that something was wrong. "Lu Mu Yen, just what's the matter with you? Not only did you not take a good rest and instead wasted all the candy used to replenish elemental energy that Teacher Lan gave, but you also go and sniff some dirt? Where's the peculiar smell in here?" "I think you're just bored and looking for trouble. You don't need to rest, but don't affect other people recovering their elemental energy." Hu Fei, also an instructor from the Imperial Academy, looked at Lu Mu Yen unhappily. There was nothing but provocation in his words. The moment his voice fell, a few students that were meditating and recovering opened their eyes and looked at Lu Mu Yen in disgust. They really questioned just how this trash was chosen to participate in the trial. They really wanted to throw her out, but considering Lu Mu Bei's face, they were barely able to resist cursing at her. "Am I affecting others? All I was doing was smelling some dirt. What did it have to do with you?" Instead, instructor must be deliberately trying to affect the Imperial team's recovery by reprimanding so loudly. Lu Mu Yen leaned against the wall of the cave, raised an eyebrow and continued, "After all, if we met danger, our students all have the candy that Teacher Lan distributed before to replenish our elemental energy, while the members of the Imperial family," she only spoke half the sentence, but her meaning was evident. "You can incite disharmony, this old mother three of yours can too." Lu Mu Yen sneered in her heart. She could now dare conclude that this man surnamed who was just purely against her. The hostility was just too obvious. Hu Fei didn't expect Lu Mu Yen to counterattack him, and his face was black with anger. Then he finally raised his hand and pointed at Lu Mu Yen, saying, "So this is your attitude towards a teacher?" Lu Mu Yen looked at his outstretched finger coldly. She hated others pointing at her the most. The corners of her lips rose into a careless and casual smile that carried with it a sense of ridicule. "Is there any problem with my attitude towards a teacher? A teacher worthy of my respect, I naturally will respect. As for those like teacher who have bad intentions, forgive me for I don't dare to praise. Even if I'm the Imperial Academy student, I really can't stand it anymore. After all, right now we still have to participate in the first round of the examination with the members of the Imperial family, no?" Hu Fei really didn't expect Lu Muyen to argue so tediously and vexatiously. Seeing that one of the instructors from the Imperial family cast a suspicious and unhappy gaze on him, he almost collapsed from being angered. To explain wasn't a good idea, yet not to explain was also not a good idea. Enough. Is it time for a quarrel right now? Yunji was the eldest and he immediately scolded them upon seeing their quarrel intensify. Then he looked at Hu Fei with a faint dislike in his eyes. Hu Fei, why are you, as an instructor, seizing onto a little girl and not letting go? She only smelled the dirt. How could it affect the recovery of the others? In fact, you being so loud just now made it appear as if it was on purpose. Yunji didn't like Hu Fei from their first encounter. This person harbored evil intentions. That was his judgment of Hu Fei. As for his feelings towards Lu Muyen, he wasn't like the rest that looked at her with colored eyes not to mention the order that the Imperial teacher gave him before coming, so he naturally was biased towards Lu Muyen. Lu Muyen glanced at Yunjin in surprise, a little curious that this person didn't actually blame her, but instead helped her. Hu Fei was so angered he almost got a crooked nose. Yunji actually humiliated him like this using his identity as one of the leaders of this team. He noted down this grudge. 1-inch case people forgot, flesh/meat, forgot which one I used previously. Hurt figuratively means that them being so wasteful and luxurious hurts them as if they were cutting off a piece of their own meat. 2 figuratively means they're in this together. No idea how that originated. 3 arrogant way of referring to oneself by females. For like wearing colored glasses. Means someone who is prejudiced, so in this case, he didn't look at her in a prejudiced way like the others. Yunji's warning caused Hu Fei to temporarily shut his mouth. Lu Muyen also stopped talking, but continued to walk a few steps, then squat down to scrutinize the cave wall. Even though her behavior made others feel she had a problem, there weren't any voices that questioned her anymore, and they all calmed down to recover. Lu Muyen looked at the tiny crawl marks on the cave wall and a trace of understanding and fear surfaced in her eyes. She quickly got up and walked to Lan Si's side and said, "Teacher, this cave's dangerous. Let's leave quickly." Lan Si looked up at Lu Muyen, unsure of whether to cry or laugh and asked, "Really? Where'd you see it?" Then thought to himself, "Oh little grand, can you just be quiet for a while? Don't you see that most of the other students want to throw you out?" Pfft. Yun-gu snorted, opened her eyes with a look of disgust. "Lu Muyen, you don't need to exaggerate to scare just to attract Qi Xian's attention, do you? This cave is so quiet, there's nothing strange at all. Where is there any danger? If you're as afraid as a mouse, then get out and stop affecting us recovering our elemental energy. Otherwise, even if you're Lu Mu Bei's younger sister, I'll personally take care of you." As soon as Yun-ge's voice fell, an icy pressure spread in the cave. Lu Mu Bei stood up and walked beside Lu Muyen. There was a chill in his eyes that looked at Yun-gu, and his voice was cold and oppressive. "Say that again." Yun-gu was an advanced phase sword spirit, so at this time, beneath Lu Mu Bei's pressure, she felt her heart tremble. She gritted her teeth and glared at Lu Mu Bei, saying stubbornly, "It's your younger sister that's looking for a sense of existence. You being partial towards her is only hurting her, not helping her. I'm right." The coldness in Lu Mu Bei's eyes gradually deepened. He narrowed his eyes slightly and a killing intent was inadvertently revealed, which caused Yun-gu to feel a sense of fear in her heart for no reason. Suddenly a domineering golden light flashed by. Ji Han-su stood in front of Yun-gu and temporarily resolved the murderous pressure. He toughened his skin and said with a smile, "Mu Bai, Yun-gu doesn't have any malicious intent either, so there's no need for you to argue with a little girl like her." But he scolded Lu Muyen in his heart. This woman really was a troublemaker. She could cause a fight wherever she went. Of course, Ji Han-su was also very angry at his betrothed, Yun-gu. If it weren't because if she got into trouble, he would too. He didn't want to step out and face Lu Mu Bai. At this time, all those that were meditating couldn't continue to concentrate on recovering either, and most people cast unhappy gazes at Lu Muyen. This woman really was someone that held them back. Lu Mubai glanced at Jihan Su lightly and spit out a word coldly, "Move." Jihan Zu's anger only grew. He was cautious of Lu Mubai, but it didn't mean he was afraid of him, so he stood up straight and said, "If you want to go over, then pass me first." A coldness condensed on Lu Mubai's gentle and handsome face. When he was about to move, Lu Mu Yen suddenly grabbed his arm from behind and took a step back. He looked at her in confusion. Lu Mu Yan's gaze was transfixed on the endless cave, sighed and said, "It's coming." No one understood her behavior, let alone what she meant by its coming. "Quickly step back, be careful." Lan Si shouted suddenly, stretched out both his hands and sucked hard. The two students who were sitting near the side of the cave was grabbed by him. Immediately, everyone could only hear countless hiss sounds resounding in the cave, making people's scalp numb. But before anyone could react, they saw countless small blue serpents that were as thick as one's arm slither out of the endless cave and towards them swiftly. "Ice Krite serpents, it's the Ice Krite serpent!" Someone in the group of students suddenly exclaimed. The others all took out their own magic tools and held them in their hands with seriousness. Ice Krite serpents were social demonic beasts. The moment it appeared it would be in the hundreds to thousands, and there could even be a high-level Ice Krite serpent king. They didn't expect that after only just stepping foot in the glacial mountain range's peripheral, they'd encounter this kind of trouble. Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site. Thanks, calm down. This is also a test for everyone. Yun Ji said with furrowed his brows as he looked at the chaotic crowd. Currently, Lu Mu Yan's eyes weren't on the Ice Krite serpents that were slithering towards them, but instead continued to stare at the depths of the cave with emotions that others couldn't understand. Lu Mu Yan squinted at Mo Yen on her shoulder and twitched the corners of her mouth. "You want me to go kill the Tier 5 Ice Krite Serpent King in the cave?" A determination to win flashed across Mo Yan's eyes and he telepathically replied, "Its demonic beast crystal core is useful to me. Do you think that with my current cultivation base, I can pass through tens of thousands of Ice Krite serpents ranging from Tier 2 to Tier 4 and rush in alone to kill the Ice Krite Serpent King for you?" Lu Mu Yen rolled her eyes. "You must still be asleep. Don't you have a kind of powder that can paralyze demonic beasts for a short period of time? It should be easy to deal with these little serpents, right? They'll help you after we rush in." Mo Yan's voice carried with it a sense of certainty. Lu Mu Yen took a breath. This damned spirit pet, just who was the master? But towards Mo Yan's proposal, she felt a little tempted. But let these people suffer a bit before we take action. Perfect to help us share some burdens. Mo Yen sneered. He definitely hadn't forgotten how these people belittled Lu Mu Yen just now. The master he had temporarily recognized wasn't someone anyone could bully. Lu Mu Yen nodded in agreement. The reason why she was too lazy to argue with Yun Gu just now was because she had discovered that the serpents at the depths of this cave had awakened because of their aura. Now, she'll just let these elites of the empire to have a taste of the Ice Krite serpents first. She wasn't a bad person, nor a villain, but she definitely wasn't a good person either. It was only acceptable to punish them a little. Besides, with her current cultivation base, it was indeed difficult for her, even if she wanted to deal with all the Ice Krite serpents. Lan Si held a thin, translucent green sword and swung a few times at the serpents that had crawled over. Several aggressive sword auras with dense pressure swept towards them. The hundreds of Ice Krite serpents in the front two rows were chopped into numerous pieces. Yun Zmo also commanded the others to kill the Ice Krite serpents that approached them. Right now, everyone just wanted to get out of the cave as soon as possible, but no one thought that, before they could even approach the exit, the same hiss sound sounded. No one knew from where another group of Ice Krite serpents slithered out and blocked the exit completely. Lan Si waved the long sword in his hand and recalled Lu Mu Yan's unusual state after entering the cave. So it seemed that she used the fastest way to restore her elemental energy because she felt danger. When he remembered her act of smelling the dirt, he couldn't help but sigh within that Lu Mu Yan's nose was just so good. He looked around at the serpents that circled them in all directions and couldn't help but ask, "Lu Mu Yen, what do you think we should do?" "Do cold food with dressing 1. So now they knew to ask her for her opinion. What about when she asked them to leave the cave as soon as possible? Didn't one by one they told her to get out? Lan Si was speechless for a moment. Lu Mu Yan's temperament really was rather strong, but he could understand it. The moment she mentioned that something smelled weird, he felt that something was wrong in this cave too. When she asked to leave, he was confused and was about to ask for the reason, but who knew that it would be interrupted by Hu Fei and Yun Ge? In fact, he was also rather wronged. He really didn't doubt Lu Mu Yan was acting foolishly. At this time, many people also remembered what occurred before. Although they still wondered why Lu Mu Yan knew that there were dangers hidden in this cave, but more people were blaming Hu Fei and Yun Ge for being meddlesome. If they hadn't stepped out and delayed time, then they wouldn't be besieged by this huge number of serpents right now. Okay, I tried ha. In Chinese, there's a common way to answer someone when they ask, "What should we do?" Zenmi ban. If you want to answer in a non-serious way, bickering way, and/or a sarcastic way, you'd answer with something along the lines of dress cold food with sauce, liang ban, especially if you don't know the answer to the question to begin with. It's probably used because ban and ban sound exactly the same, just spelt differently and mean different things, so they chose that commonality and someone, I guess, just randomly used that word one day and it was made popular. It makes no sense, but that's the point, I guess. There is one more meaning behind it though, to ignore the situation/problem, which actually makes the word rather suiting because it means cold. And I guess it's also like saying to give the situation/problem the cold shoulder. Could also be used to describe desolation, disappointment, heart sinking, etc. Take with that information what you will ha. That's just my understanding based on years of hearing and reading that word and a brief Baidu search with Chinese answers while translating XD. Oops, sorry for being a few minutes late. That's on me and my poor time management skills. Chapter 78. Battle the Ice-Krite Serpent King. Hiss hiss. The entire cave was surrounded by a huge amount of ice-krite serpents that flicked their forked tongues. Lu Mu Yan took out the golden long whip and whipped the serpents that closed in on her from time to time. She used her silk missteps to maneuver around and secretly stuffed small paper bags with powdered drugs to Lu Mu Bai, Yun Lan and the rest. In a moment, scatter the powder on the surrounding snakes. They'll temporarily lose their ability to move and they'll be frozen. Seeing the countless casualties among the serpents on the ground, she telepathically spoke to them in secret. The people were surprised after receiving her telepathic words, but they held the powder she gave them tightly in their hands and prepared to move at the right moment. "Elder brother, I'm going into the cave for a while, help cover for me." Lu Mu Yan moved beside Lu Mu Bai and telepathically told him. Lu Mu Bai swung his sword to kill the serpents that attacked while furrowing his brows and said disapprovingly, "What are you doing going deeper in? It's dangerous down there. Or I'll go with you." "Elder brother, I'm well aware of the situation. Just help cover for me, I'll be back soon." Lu Mu Yan's eyes were firm. She couldn't always rely on others when encountering difficulties, not to mention she had a way to deal with the Serpent King. Lu Mu Bai felt uneasy, but he also understood the nature of his younger sister. No one could stop what she set her mind on doing. After swinging his sword to clear out a portion of the obstacles, he said, "Go, but you must be careful. If you're not out in an hour, then I'll go in to look for you." "All right." After receiving Lu Mu Bai's approval, Lu Mu Yan tapped her foot and moved towards the inside of the cave quietly when others weren't paying attention. Under Mo Yan's deliberate release of pressure, the low-level ice-krite serpents gave way, and in only moments, she had arrived deeper into the cave. And her action also fell in the eyes of Lan Si and Yun Zmo, but the two didn't stop her nor say anything about it. After taking a silent look, they retrieved their gaze and continued to kill the overwhelming serpents. The cave was completely dark, and the walls were slippery. After she left the crowd completely, she took out a night-luminous pearl from her interspatial ring, which instantly illuminated 10 meters of her surroundings. She walked forward cautiously as Mo Yan stood on her shoulder, directing her into a long, narrow passage. The ice-krite serpent kings at the end of the passage. I don't know what secret skill it used to cover up the fluctuations of a demonic beast and its aura, but that's why the rest of you didn't discover the serpent nest and its existence. In a bit, I'll mobilize my innate talent and use the king-class demonic beast's pressure to temporarily trap it. You take the opportunity to kill it. Mo Yen moved his deep back eyes, and his tone carried with it an inherent domineering attitude and self-confidence. Lu Muyen halted. She mobilized the spiritual energy within her, bit her right index finger until it bled, and flicked towards the void. 4 drops of blood rose in the sky, then she stretched out her hand to draw 4 talisman incantations with dense spiritual energy in the void. Only then did she carefully leapt into the cave. As soon as she felt her feet land on the ground by the cave, a sudden, extremely cold icicle shot straight towards her. Lu Muyen was vigilant throughout, so the moment she landed, she quickly utilized her silk mist steps to maneuver around. The chilling icicle just shot past her shoulder and embedded into the wall behind her, smashing out a hole. She moved a few steps again and stood on a relatively safe high rock. When she raised her eyes, she met a pair of cold serpent eyes. The huge body of the serpent opposite her was coiled on a huge ice pillar. Its whole body was icy blue, and its scales glowed with chillingly light. It flicked its forked tongue and stared at Mo Yen on Lu Muyen's shoulder greedily. Seeing the ice-krite serpent king stare at Mo Yen as if watching its prey, Lu Muyen raised an eyebrow, smiled and said, "Mo Yen, it's treating you as if you're dinner." There was no shortage of gloating in her tone. Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site. Thanks. Mo Yen glanced at the woman that was smiling like a flower, turned his head and snorted coldly, "Is something like that guy worthy?" Hiss hiss. Hearing the open conversation between the one human and one beast, the ice-krite serpent king raised its head and hissed, completely angered. It discovered that a group of humans had arrived in its territory earlier, so it decided that when the time was right, it would release all the serpents to attack. It initially wanted to wait for the humans to be bitten to death before going out and swallowing it into its stomach to refine them, but it didn't expect that there would be a weak human who would break in first. The most important thing was that on the shoulder of this weak person, there was a mysterious demonic beast that resembled a fire cloud mink. Yet it made it feel as if its energy and blood inflated, and a thirst for it was birthed spontaneously. There was a voice in its heart that kept telling it that as long as it swallowed and refined the little white beast opposite, it would be able to break through to a Tier 6 demonic beast. That extreme desire caused the ice-krite serpent to hiss a few times, opened its mouth and spat out dozens of ice arrows that contained dual elemental attributes towards Lu Muyen. It wanted to kill the one human and one beast before it and devour them. Lu Muyen darted away and maneuvered around the ice cave ceaselessly. Because of the difference in their cultivation levels, not to mention the ice-krite serpent king owned the dual attributes of ice and water, she could only put in all her effort to barely avoid the ice arrows that constantly shot towards her and prevent herself from being injured. Mo Yen leapt off Lu Muyen's shoulder. His body suddenly enlarged from the size of a palm to at least more than a meter long before stopping. He roared violently towards the ice-krite serpent. Roar! A deafening roar echoed in the huge ice cave. Mo Yen integrated a kind of soul attack-type innate talent into the roar. The pressure that belonged to a king-class demonic beast stacked on top of each other, and like the explosion of a mountain torrent, rolled towards the ice-krite serpent king. Lu Muyen also avoided the last ice arrow at that moment. She muttered a few sentences, waved her hand casually, and 4 void talismans that carried spiritual energy rose into the air, taking the opportunity to surround the ice-krite serpent while it was stunned by Mo Yen's roar. Hiss hiss. The pressure caused the ice-krite serpent to shudder from the bottom of his heart. Its demonic soul within its Yaofu trembled slightly and it raised its head in pain as it hissed a few times. Although Mo Yen was able to use his innate talent, but because his cultivation base was only at the strength of a Tier 3 demonic beast, the same level as Lu Muyen, so the period of time that he was able to utilize his innate talent was relatively short. There was only one chance. When the pressure that wound around its Yaofu and demonic soul gradually dissipated, the ice-krite serpent king was completely angered with some fear. A trace of scarlet rose in its ice-cold serpent eyes. Seeing that the demonic beast that was at least 1 meter long on the ground had returned to the size of a palm, the Serpent King felt disdain towards it. So what if it was a king-class demonic beast? Now the opponent's strength wasn't even comparable to itself from a middle-class demonic clan. The greedy color and fierce light in its eyes grew thicker. It definitely must swallow its opponent and refine its demonic core. Maybe it wouldn't only advance to a Tier 6 demonic beast, it could also be able to reach Tier 7 or Tier 8. Just thinking about it dilated its pores in excitement, extremely transparent. Lu Mu Yen sneered. The Serpent King opposite her would have to pay the price for underestimating her right now. She created 16 Taoist seals in the air and inserted them into the 4 void talismans one by one. 4 symbols, 1 killing array, condense. Lu Mu Yen exclaimed lightly. The 6 Taoist seals echoed in collaboration with each other and with the 4 void talismans. They connected to form a long, transparent ribbon talisman incantation which perfectly wrapped around the thick body of the Ice-Krite Serpent King. The Ice-Krite Serpent King felt an external force restrain its body. With a look, he discovered it was that weak human woman that was causing trouble. It moved its head a little and didn't place much importance to her, then opened its ferocious mouth and bit towards Mo Yen on the ground. Lu Mu Yen curled the corners of her lips and spit out a word coldly, explode. One the 4 symbols refers to the 4 guardian beasts or 4 gods or 4 auspicious beasts aka Black Tortoise of the North, Azure Dragon of the East, Vermilion Bird of the South and White Tiger of the West. Also Eike Genbu, Sairyu, Suzaku and Bayako. Chapter 79. Kill, explode. Lu Mu Yan's cold voice fell and one of the characters on the ribbon-like talisman incantation that wound around the Ice-Krite Serpent King leapt out and transformed into a transparent cyan dragon with dense spiritual energy that whistled out and plunged directly into the Ice-Krite Serpent King's heart. The huge mouth of the Ice-Krite Serpent King halted above Mo Yan's head and its eyes instantly turned bloodshot. Suddenly, its body limped, and it collapsed onto the ice-cold floor heavily. It curled into a ball as if it was in extreme pain. But it wasn't over. If one listened carefully, there was actually a muffled sound that resounded from within the Ice-Krite Serpent's body, like firecrackers that had been lit. Hiss hiss. The Ice-Krite Serpent King moved in pain and hovered above the giant ice pillar, hitting the icicle continuously from head to tail. Its internal organs were slowly being corroded by the spiritual energy talisman dragon, which then exploded in its body. Its strong impacts and struggles made the originally stable cave be on the verge of collapse as pieces of ice and rock fell. Lu Mu Yen narrowed her eyes, stretched out 2 fingers and drew in the air again. A flash of white spiritual energy once again penetrated into the body of the Ice-Krite Serpent's body, then it finally fell heavily from the giant pillar and hit the ground again. When the dragon talisman burrowed itself into the Yaofu of the Ice-Krite Serpent King and tore the serpent's demonic soul out from its body, the Ice-Krite Serpent King's body completely stopped struggling and it laid quietly on the ground without a single breath left in it. Lu Mu Yen waved her hand and the half-Siyuan long 1 transparent talisman dragon cheerfully flew over, holding the Ice-Krite Serpent King's demonic soul, and landed on her hand. She smiled softly, then the talisman dragon disappeared into her body, while the demonic soul was trapped within a new spiritual talisman that she drew. This is useful to you? Lu Mu Yen threw the transparent ball that imprisoned the Ice-Krite Serpent King's demonic soul to Mo Yen. Mo Yen opened his mouth and swallowed the demonic soul of the Ice-Krite Serpent. The spiritual talisman drawn by Lu Mu Yen was also broken in his mouth. Lu Mu Yen took a few steps forward and nodded with satisfaction as she looked at the intact Ice-Krite Serpent King corpse. It would be more appropriate for this corpse to be taken back to Huashao to be refined into a few magic tools that shed gift to her family. Although the corpse of the flame unicorn beast was Tier 6, but no one except her in the Lu clan had comprehended the fire elemental energy attribute, so the magic tools refined from the flame unicorn beast's scales weren't suitable for them. She took out a dagger from her interspatial ring and directly inserted it into the Ice-Krite Serpent's head. Then she channeled her elemental energy to crack it open, and with a grab, 2 blue crystal cores, one deep, one light, landed in her hand. Who expected that the talent of the Ice-Krite Serpent King wasn't that bad? It actually condensed 2 crystal cores of different attributes. Luckily, it only recently advanced to Tier 5 Demonic Beast, otherwise we would have to use some of our trump cards to kill it today. Lu Mu Yen played with the crystal core in her hand and raised an eyebrow at Mo Yen. Mo Yen didn't even glance at the corpse on the ground and jumped directly onto Lu Mu Yan's shoulder. His voice was cold as usual. "You still have some trump cards?" He also went to watch the Academy's grand competition that Lu Mu Yen participated in last time. Her strength was unexpected, and her combat power was extraordinary. It truly did give him a little surprise that day. But he didn't expect that he still underestimated this woman. Today, he hadn't even seen the methods that Lu Mu Yen used to kill the Ice-Krite Serpent King before, even when he was at the peak of his strength. With such methods, it would even make him cautious and fearful if they weren't in a contractual relationship. But when he was already shocked by it, Lu Mu Yen actually told him that she still had more trump cards. It truly overthrew all that he knew. Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site. Thanks Lu Mu Yan's neat and clean combat mode, and how her proficiency wasn't even inferior to when he was at his peak. Was this really a clan's trash? How could a great sword master cultivation base woman understand so much? Why does a 16-year-old young woman have such rich combat experience and methods? She was like a cloud of mist, and every bit that she displayed wasn't her true self, as if she was looming within layers upon layers of thin veils, making people want to explore and understand even deeper. Lu Mu Yen utilized her mental energy and put the entire corpse of the Ice-Krite Serpent King into her interspatial ring. She stretched out her hand to poke Mo Yan's back and chuckled softly, saying, "This glacial mountain range is very dangerous. Maybe you'll see my trump cards soon." Mo Yan's eyes that were as deep and boundless as the sea fluctuated like a whirlpool. Although, between him and Lu Mu Yen, they were under the contract of equals, but their mutual understanding and trust had not yet reached the point where they'd rely on and support each other entirely. He stopped inquiring, just stared down at the 2 crystal cores in Lu Mu Yan's hand and said, "Give me the 2 crystal cores for refining." "You want to refine it directly?" Lu Mu Yen glanced around the serpent cave as if looking for something. "How can I absorb it without refining it directly? As long as I refine these 2 crystal cores, plus the demonic soul I just swallowed, you'll soon be able to break through to Tier 5 strength. When I have time, I'll use these crystal cores to refine a cauldron of pills for you. The effect's much better than refining it directly." "Sure." Mo Yen was still quite convinced by Lu Mu Yan's alchemy skills. Seeing that Lu Mu Yen still wasn't leaving, he looked towards the corner of the cave and asked incomprehensibly, "What tray you looking for?" "Of course I'm looking for the treasure collected by the Ice-Krite Serpent King. It's been in this glacial mountain range for so many years, it's impossible for it to not have collected the spiritual herbs and spiritual items here." Lu Mu Yen used the whip to remove an ice stone as she explained to Mo Yen. Mo Yen couldn't help but twitch the corner of his eyes. This woman really didn't let go of anything. Then he said jokingly, "I'm the best at finding spiritual herbs and spiritual items." When Lu Mu Yen saw that there was nothing under the removed ice stone, she was a little disappointed, but then she suddenly heard Mo Yan's words and couldn't help but knock her head lightly with her knuckle. "That's right. How could I have forgotten you still have that talent?" Seeing Mo Yen lying aloofly on her shoulder, she grabbed him and tossed him out. "Don't just know how to enjoy and not do work, go find the treasure." Mo Yen turned his head and headed towards the left side of the cave in a bad mood. He had lived for so long, and no one had dared to toss him. Lu Mu Yen really was the first person. But he didn't dislike such actions, and even a sense of the desire to coddle someone that had never appeared before rose in his heart. He really was being infected by this black-bellied woman. A spirit devourer's sensitivity to spiritual herbs were hundreds of times stronger than Fire Cloud Mink's. He only casually sniffed around and already confirmed the location of the Ice-Krite Serpent's treasure. He stood atop an ice stone that wasn't quite large nor small and said, "The things are placed beneath this ice stone, come get it yourself." Lu Muyan's eyes lit up and her stunning little face displayed a gleeful smile. After Mo Yen leapt onto her shoulder again, she waved her whip and smashed the ice stone in half. Sure enough, beneath the stone, she discovered a large hole. She raised the corners of her lips, plunged the whip into the hole skillfully, and with a tug, the treasures that the Ice-Krite Serpent King had prized over the years all entered her interspatial ring. However, due to the time constraints, she didn't investigate it immediately, but instead used her silk missteps and leapt towards the entrance. After exiting the cave's entrance, she also used her elemental energy to strike down the ice mountain's loose gravel to seal the entrance. After completing all this, she swiftly headed towards the trial teams. Now that the Ice-Krite Serpent King was dead, the commands that controlled the group of serpents would also disappear. With the serpents having no leader after her eldest brother and the rest used the powder she gave, she believed that the battle above them would almost be over too. She had to return among them before the battle was over. Chapter 80. Attitude Change. Lu Muyan used silk missteps at its fastest and arrived in the cave where everyone had rested before. The battle wasn't over yet, and at this time, piles of Ice-Krite serpent corpses were everywhere. The students were practically exhausted as they dealt with the last wave of small serpents. She quickly moved to Lu Mu Bei's side when the others weren't paying attention and waved her whip to help him behead a wave of small serpents that surrounded him. Lu Mu Bei had taken the candy that was from Lan Si earlier with Lu Muyan, so he still had more than half of his elemental energy left, which meant, compared to the others, he had it much easier. Only after seeing his younger sister return safely did his hovering heart gradually fall back into place. Done. Lu Mu Bei asked Lu Muyan telepathically. Lu Muyan and Lu Mu Bei killed the last batch of Ice-Krite serpents back to back. Yep, it's done. The battles of the rest were also coming to an end. Several students had practically exhausted their elemental energy, and it was thanks to the help of Lan Si and the several teachers that they could survive the swarm of serpents. When the last Ice-Krite serpent was killed, whether it was the Empire Academy trial students or the Imperial family trial team, most of them were sitting on the ground panting and many were more or less injured too. Yun Zimo walked straight to Lu Muyan with a touch of complexity in his eyes and asked, "You gave them those powder drugs? So what if it's me?" Lu Muyan knew that Yun Zimo and Lan Si had both noticed that she had left earlier, but she couldn't consider too much at the time. Though, if Yun Zimo mentioned it now, she inevitably would experience some trouble. Yun Zimo's eyes darkened, fell silent, then faintly said, "Nothing." Then he turned directly around and walked not far away to sit and meditate to recover his elemental energy. A sliver of surprise slipped past Lu Muyan's heart. Yun Zimo's brain wasn't ill, was it? But this was fine too. It saved her from having to explain to everyone. Lan Si looked at Yun Zimo thoughtfully, then asked Lu Muyan, "Do you still have the powder drug?" Hearing Lan Si's question, everyone in their cave cast their gazes towards Lu Muyan, and many people held complex emotions in their eyes. If it weren't for the powder that Lu Mu Bei and the others scattered that temporarily paralyzed those waves of Tier 3 and 4 Ice-Krite serpents, they could still be fighting bitterly right now, or there could have even been some casualties. The powder drug's effect was truly strong. Putting the fact that it was useful against Tier 4 demonic beasts aside, it could even be used in group attacks. If everyone carried some on them, next time, even if they encountered a group of demonic beast attacks, they'd still have confidence in escaping. There's still some more. Lu Muyan didn't hesitate and took out a part of the powdered drug she had in her interspatial ring and gave it to Lan Si. Since knowing that she was coming to the glacial mountain range, she had equipped herself with a lot of sleeping powder that she refined. Now that Lan Si asked for it for the other students, she would still give him this face. What's more, in the first segment where everyone traveled together, they would experience both glory and loss as one. Lan Si nodded with a smile. "Thank you. I'll report to the principal to compensate you after returning to the Empire." "No need." Lu Muyan smiled indifferently. These powders weren't worth a lot of money, so they might as well be used to buy people's hearts. Lan Si raised his eyebrow and with a gentle smile again, young Miss Lu sure is generous. Then we won't be courteous. Lu Mu Yen rolled her eyes at him and cursed secretly, fox. Lan Si asked Ji Xian to redistribute the powdered drug that he obtained from Lu Mu Yen to everyone who participated in the trial. Put these powdered drugs away well. There are a lot of demonic beast packs in the glacial mountain range. If you meet them again, this is also a means of saving your life. Yes. After everyone answered, some of them even looked at Lu Mu Yen apologetically. Their previous attitude towards her was too arbitrary. Then Lan Si and the several instructors picked through the piles of ice-crite serpent corpses in the cave, dug out their crystal cores, and gave everyone a share. Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site. Thanks only after taking a rest in the cave for the night, when everyone's physical strength and elemental energy returned to their peaks, did Lan Si and Yun Ji lead them on their way. Along the way, many people's attitudes towards Lu Mu Yen had changed a lot, and from time to time, some people would even strike up a conversation with her. We've arrived at the periphery, let's take a break first. Once we enter here, we'll be in the world where Tier 4 demonic beasts roam. Their cultivation base is similar to yours, so be vigilant at all times. When they arrived at a place where green plants grew, fresh flowers intertwined, and a forest that grew vigorously, Lan Si ordered everyone to rest. Not all places in the glacial mountain range were ice mountains. There was only daylight here, but in some places where the sun shone all year round, all seasons were practically like spring. After resting for a while, they continued on their way. Except after only walking for not even 2 hours, they heard some fighting noises and the roaring of demonic beasts in the woods ahead. Lan Si made a stop gesture, exchanged a glance with Yun Ji, then handed the students over to the several other instructors, before the two leapt in that direction. Lu Mu Yen looked in that direction and telepathically spoke to Mo Yen. Did the people ahead meet demonic beasts? It wasn't far ahead, and if she spread her mental energy, then she could find out what was happening there, but there was a demonic sense that was super strong, where with one casual sweep, the demonic beast could know what was occurring 1,000 li away, so she naturally knew to put it to good use. A group of humans and a demonic beast pack encountered each other, but it was solved quickly. The strength of that group is much stronger than your group. Mo Yen laid on Lu Mu Yen's shoulder and replied lazily. Lu Mu Yen stroked her chin, and the corner of her lips rose into an arc. The group of people ahead should undoubtedly be the pupils of the 10 distinguished clans. Not long after, Lan Si sent a signal to continue ahead, so Ji Xian rushed over with everyone. After passing through the woods, one saw many Tier 3 and 4 demonic beast corpses lying in the open ground. There were some people sitting separately on clean grass, and they appeared to be a small team. You guys come to rest as well for a bit? Lan Si pointed to a clean, open space to let the students of Yanzhou Kingdom rest, while he, himself, stood with 2 middle-aged men to chat, seeming to be acquaintances. Lu Mu Yen swept the 2 groups of people and a smile rose in her eyes, but she didn't take the initiative to step forward. When she walked to the place Lan Si designated, and just as she was about to sit, there was a sound of surprise that entered her ears. Mu Yen. When Yi Qinghan sat in his place to rest, he had heard that the students who participated in the trial competition from Yanzhou Kingdom also came. He only thought to glance over casually, but didn't expect to see the beautiful, otherworldly, white-clothed woman in the crowd. Lu Mu Yen stopped in her steps, turned her head, and smiled charmingly. Qinghan. The familiar greeting between the two surprised everyone in the woods, especially the few women who had been sitting in the clearing as they looked at Lu Mu Yen with dislike in their eyes. Yi Qing Yen patted the young woman beside him, then they stood up and walked towards Lu Mu Yen. Mu Yen, long time no see. Yi Qing Yen was still dressed in his dark patterned black robe with a rare smile on his handsome face. Lu Mu Yen nodded, her eyes dyed with a smile. Long time no see. Elder brother, is she the elder sister Mu Yen you spoke of? The sweet-looking and petite girl who stood beside Yi Qinghan asked with a smile. Yes, she's Lu Mu Yen. Yi Qinghan's voice carried a bit of pampering, then introduced to Lu Mu Yen. Mu Yen, this is my little sister, Yi Qing Lu. Elder sister Mu Yen, You're so beautiful. Yi Qinglu blinked at Lu Mu Yen with a natural familiarity. She didn't know why, but just liked this woman, that her elder brothers spoke of constantly at first glance. Qinglu is also very beautiful. Lu Mu Yen nodded and smiled cordially. The friendliness of the girl opposite her didn't appear to be fake, so a sense of intimacy was also birthed unconsciously in Lu Mu Yan's heart. Perhaps this was simply fate. Chapter 81. The Yi clan's brother and sister Yi Qinghan was relatively humble, but there was a sense of distance towards everyone. It was difficult to see him reveal a smile from the bottom of his heart to anyone. Yi Qinglu, the little princess of the Yi family, had a very lively and cheerful appearance, but she rarely truly approved of anyone. No one had ever seen her display the intimacy that she did today towards anyone. Many people were puzzled by the attitude of the Yi clan's brother and sister towards Lu Mu Yen. Those who didn't know Lu Mu Yan's identity were all wondering who she was. It was the first time for Xue Ling and Exan Yingxian to see Qing Han display such a gentle side to a woman. In particular, the joy and warm color in his eyes pricked their eyes. Exan Yingxian had already found out Lu Mu Yan's identity before. From her point of view, this woman was just a fallen noble. The only thing that made her fear was the mysterious master behind Lu Mu Yen. Originally, she wanted to immediately get rid of Lu Mu Yen, but the other party had the marrow cleansing pill. After the superiors of the 10 distinguished clans received this news, the moment this trial ended, they would definitely go to Yanzhou Kingdom to discuss this matter. The elder of her clan also warned her not to make a move without permission and lose a great opportunity because of something small. Exan Yingxian's eyes were grim. After she was warned by the clan, she decided to temporarily let Lu Mu Yen go and wait for the Exan clan to obtain the marrow cleansing pill first before killing her. But now looking at Yi Qinghan's attitude towards Lu Mu Yen, her heart was burning with jealousy. She just wanted to rush up and scratch open that gorgeous face of hers completely. Elder brother Mu Bai Mu Yen. At this time, several people from the Ling clan also walked over from another direction. The leader was a red-haired young man and a gentlewoman in plain clothes. Fei Hao Fei Li. A warm color flashed across Lu Mu Bai's eyes. Lu Mu Yen also smiled and addressed, elder cousin brother, elder cousin sister. The two of them were precisely the most promising of the younger generation in the Ling clan, Ling Fei Hao and Ling Fei Li. They were Lu Mu Yan's second uncle and third uncle's child respectively. They were 2 years older than her, and they treated her fairly nicely. Towards the rest that followed the two, Lu Mu Yen didn't have a strong impression. She supposed that they were the pupils of the Ling clan who just came to participate in the selection trial and wasn't from the main bloodline. Only when they saw Ling Fei Hao and Ling Fei Li greet Lu Mu Yen did many talents of the 10 distinguished clans realize her identity. But they still wondered how Yi Qinghan and Lu Mu Yen met. The relationship between the two was obviously not shallow. I've long heard my maternal grandfather say that Mu Yan's terminal meridian's constitution had been eradicated, but it was unexpected that we'd meet in this trial. I hope we can participate in the continental tournament for hegemony together. Ling Fei Hao's sunny and energetic face revealed a lovely dimple. Ling Fei Li beside him glared at him. Well, speak of these matters in private. This little boy spoke regardless of occasion. Didn't he see everyone's eyes were cast on them? Let's find a place to have a conversation first. Ling Fei Hao was just too excited to see the Lu brother and sister, so now that he had calmed down, he proposed. Lu Mu Bai nodded and smiled gently at the Yi clan's brother and sister. Mu Yen, you should accompany your friends and have chat. He could see that Yi Qinghan was looking for Lu Mu Yen for something. Although he didn't know how they met, but as long as the other party wasn't malicious, then it was fine. Alright, they'll chat a little with Qinghan and Qinglu. Eldest brother, you guys talk first. Then, Lu Mu Bai and the people from the Ling clan walked to a distant grassy area to sit and chat, while Lu Mu Yan's arm was wrapped around by Qing Les and was pulled under a large tree not far away. Yi Qinghan erected an elemental energy soundproof barrier. Seeing Yi Qinghan's hesitate in speaking, Lu Mu Yen understood. She took Qing Le's hand to take her pulse. Let me take a look at Qing Le's body first. Yi Qinglu was plagued by years of disease, and this time, it was because she had taken a pill the clan's alchemist had refined that could temporarily suppress the fetal poison, that she could follow into the glacial mountain range. Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site. Thanks, she had long heard from her elder brother and old Lu that Lu Mu Yen had excelling medical skills. Elder brother had even successfully advanced to the Sword King stage because he took the marrow-cleansing pill that Lu Mu Yen gifted. So she had long wanted to see the woman they constantly spoke of. Sure enough, she didn't disappoint at first glance today. She had a good impression of this woman who was only a year older than herself. Now that Lu Mu Yen wanted to check her pulse for her illness, she relaxed her body and allowed her to check. After changing Yi Qing Le's hand and continued to check her pulse, Lu Mu Yan's brows furrowed together slightly. Then, after a while, she let go and fell into deep contemplation. Mu Yen, how is it? Can Qing Le's poison be cured? Seeing Lu Mu Yen furrow her brows, worry couldn't help but rise from Yi Qinghan's heart. Yi Qinglu was more optimistic. Since she was a child, she knew that she might not live past 20 years old. So this time she begged the superiors in the clan to allow her to follow her elder brother to experience the outside world. Elder sister Mu Yen, I've been living with this chronic illness for years. If there's no solution, then it's also normal. Lu Mu Yen was just thinking deeply about how to cure Yi Qing Le's poison, yet who knew that it'd cause a misunderstanding from the two. She smiled back and said, although the fetal poison in your body is deep, but it hasn't corroded to the internal organs yet. As long as you cure it within a year, then it'll be fine. If we drag the time longer than a year, the fetal poison flowing in your blood will slowly corrode your internal organs, and by then it'll be more troublesome. Then you mean Qing Lu could still be saved now? A light burst from Yi Qinghan's eyes. Yi Qinglu froze and a look of hope rose in her eyes as she stared at Lu Mu Yen, waiting for her answer. Although she had a cheerful and optimistic temperament, but every time the fetal poison erupted within her, she always had the urge to commit suicide. If it weren't for her family, then she would have long been unable to continue to live. Now, if there was a way to completely eradicate the poison from within her body, then it would be the best result for her and her family. Yes, she can be saved. But because the poison had already blended with her blood, it'll be a bit troublesome to deal with. I still need to refine an antidote pill to be used together with the golden needle treatment. Lu Mu Yen paused, then added, it's just that I think the treatment should be postponed until after this trial is over. Yi Qing Le's fetal poison wasn't difficult to solve, it was just troublesome to handle. During the treatment, it also required her to treat Yi Qinglu with needles every day for a month. In the glacial mountain range, they would separate immediately to complete their own trials. So she couldn't be treated. No hurry. I've been like this for so many years, I don't care about waiting a little more. Yi Qinglu was happy. She didn't expect that Lu Mu Yen really had a way to treat the fetal poison in her body. This made her feel a sense of hope that had never risen in her heart before. Yi Qinghan also revealed some excitement in his eyes. Everything's fine as long as it can be cured. Don't worry, I can cure this poison, I promise. Lu Mu Yen could deeply feel the pain of having a chronic illness. Judging from Yi Qing Le's fetal poison, she would have an outbreak of intolerable pain almost every 2 months. To be able to live until now and still maintain such an optimistic temperament, it meant that Yi Qinglu was extremely tough. She admired such a girl very much. Mu Yen, a mere thank you is an insufficient response to such a huge favor. Yi Qinghan thought for a while and popped out this sincere sentence. Lu Mu Yen lowered her head and chuckled, then raised her head and looked at him jokingly. I still haven't treated Qinglu yet, your thanks is too early. I believe you. Yi Qinghan's handsome, sharp and angular face revealed unconditional trust. Since the time they went to the blazing mountain range together, an inexplicable feeling of trust grew in him towards this woman. Elder sister Mu Yen, I believe you too. Yi Qinglu smiled beautifully, with trust in her eyes. Lu Mu Yan's eyes were also dyed with a layer of deep warmth. She was very touched by this trust and was happy from the bottom of her heart. Random note. By the way, anyone reading on Novel website and giving all those 5-star reviews, if any one of you happen to be here, wow, thanks. I'm only the translator, but I guess I'm just genuinely happy to see others enjoying a novel I really love myself. And kudos for reading Imperial, that's another world out there. Though I completely understand, if it were me and I really wanted to read a novel in another language I didn't understand, yeah, MTL might be the way. Anyways, made me real happy to see so many people enjoy it even though I'm just translating it and it's not even my novel, huh? Chapter 82. The three men most difficult to approach. Yi Qing Lu and Lu Mu Yen hit it off at first sight. They laughed and chatted for a while, and both felt as if they've met each other far too late. When Yi Qing Han was about to separate from Lu Mu Yen, he suddenly leaned close to her ear and whispered, "The glacial mountain range hasn't been peaceful recently. Be careful when you complete your missions. If you meet people outside of Yanzhou Kingdom and the 10 distinguished clans, try your best to avoid them." Lu Mu Yen revealed confusion in her eyes, but didn't ask more, nodded and said, "All right, you two take care too." Soon, the Yi clan's brother and sister returned to the place where the people of the Yi clan who participated in the trial gathered. Lu Mu Yen also went to where the Ling clan's people were and sat down. "Mu Yen, you know the brother and sister of the Yi clan?" Ling Fei Hao turned his eyes then asked curiously. Lu Mu Yen said with a smile, "Yep, we've had some interactions before." "You can actually be so close to them, that's amazing." Ling Fei Hao raised a thumb up at Lu Mu Yen, then said in a whisper, "Those two siblings are famous for being watertight and they keep their distance from anyone, especially Yi Qing Han. He's exceptionally difficult to befriend." "There's such a thing?" Lu Mu Yen remembered that when she first met Yi Qing Han, he definitely felt distant, but afterwards, when they went to the blazing mountain range, that sense of distance gradually faded, and they even became friends with a bit of tacit understanding. She had never felt that it was difficult to approach Yi Qing Han. Ling Fei Hao leaned towards Lu Mu Yen and said, "There are 3 people who are considered the most difficult to approach in the 10 distinguished clans. Do you know which 3? Lu Mu Yen cooperated with Ling Fei Hao in amusement. "I don't know which 3. Yi Qing Han counts as one?" She found that this elder cousin brother of hers was too lively and full of energy. "Yep, Yi Qing Han counts as one, and there's 2 other people. Look over at the group of people sitting across from us." The expressionless man sitting on the very edge, wearing a black brocade robe, is the most highly valued genius of the clan ranked number 1 of the distinguished clans, the Shi clan's One Shifeng. Ling Fei Hao gestured with his mouth, indicating to the opposite direction. Lu Mu Yen glanced over with her peripheral vision and found that the man named Shi Feng was leaning against a big tree alone with his eyes closed, without any expression on his face. But she felt a familiar feeling from him. He's an alchemist? Lu Mu Yen remembered that this familiar feeling originated from the scent of medicine that exuded from him, so she turned her head and asked Ling Fei Hao. She was exceptionally sensitive to smell. Earlier, when she passed by the area where the Shi clan was, she smelled a light medicinal scent that was from Shi Feng. Of course, the Shi clan is known for their alchemy across Tianling continent. Obviously, he's an alchemist. Ling Fei Hao glanced toward Shi Feng and there was a touch of admiration in his eyes. He's now a grade 3 alchemist. 19 years old and already a grade 3 alchemist? Isn't that amazing? He's known as the first person in the eastern region to have such high levels of mastery in alchemy in many years. Many alchemists have a weird temper, so it's normal if they're hard to interact with. Lu Mu Yen herself had interacted with many alchemists, so she naturally knew a bit about how some alchemists didn't like to deal with people. They spent all their time indulged in alchemy. The feeling that Shi Feng gave her was as such. This kind of indulgence was different to Hua Xiao's indulgence in smithing. She had seen people like Shi Feng before, and he should be one who truly loved the pleasure and accomplishment when spiritual herbs were successfully refined into pills. They pursued perfection and strived to refine the best pill as their lifelong goal. Ling Fei Hao pursed his lips and said, "It's not just because he's an alchemist, he's just got face paralysis too. His face is expressionless all year round." Basically no one's seen him show any excessive emotions. Lu Muyen smiled speechlessly, considering that to be her acquiescence, then asked, "And the last person?" "And the last person's the man in scarlet clothes sitting not far from your teacher. His name is Mu Yi and is the young lord of the Mu clan that's ranked 3rd in the 10 distinguished clans. He's also a grade 3 smith. The most important thing is that he's already comprehended 3 different elemental energy attributes already. Although he's only at peak phase Sword King cultivation base, but it's said that he already has the strength to fight a sword monarch." Ling Fei Hao added. Lu Muyen raised her eyes and glanced in Mu Yi's direction. Coincidentally, their eyes met as he lifted his. The two looked at each other, then each retrieved their gazes. "That person seems to be smiling all the time. How did you judge that he's difficult to interact with?" "It's precisely because he's smiling all the time that he's hard to interact with. Because he's a smiling tiger who treats everyone with politeness, regardless of who it is. It's a different tune to Yi Qinghan's distance, but with the same results 3. Ling Fei Hao said as he raised an eyebrow. "Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site." Thanks. Lu Muyen looked at him, amused. "Elder cousin brother, I realize you're really bored." "Muyen, so you realize too. He just studies these boring things every day, and he doesn't listen to us no matter what we say." Ling Fei Li beside him couldn't help but laugh aloud. Ling Fei Hao huffed. "I'm just studying my opponents, you guys don't understand." Lu Muyen and Ling Fei Li exchanged a look and saw the smile in each other's eyes. However, she did obtain 2 pieces of information from Ling Fei Hao's short gossip, which could be considered a gain. The several people chatted about the Ling clan and the 10 distinguished clans, then the middle-aged man that was standing with Lan Si suddenly clapped his hands and said, "The trial members of the 10 distinguished clans will gather and set off in a quarter of an hour." Ling Fei Hao revealed a look of reluctance. They had only met for a little bit and now had to separate again. Lu Mu Bai patted his shoulder with a light smile. "Fei Hao, this time you need to bring glory to the Ling clan. Maybe we'll meet again within the later parts of the trial." "I will." Hearing Lu Mu Bai's words, Ling Fei Hao nodded solemnly. The current situation of the Ling clan wasn't really optimistic. He and Ling Fei Li were the main force of the Ling clan's trial this time, and they couldn't make the Ling clan lose face. Lu Muyen thought a bit, then took out a few packets of powdered drugs from her interspatial ring and stuffed them in their hands, saying, "These powdered drugs can deal with the demonic beasts and paralyze them for a few breaths. You can use these at critical times. This is the Elemental Energy Replenishing Pill 4, which can quickly replenish your elemental energy when you've depleted it." Then she handed 2 more bottles of Elemental Energy Nourishing Pills to the 2 as well. She believed that as the main targets of training in the 10 distinguished clans, they wouldn't lack pills with these types of effects. However, there's a shortage of alchemists on this continent, and pills were even scarcer. So presumably they wouldn't have a lot on them either. The people of the Ling clan all treated Lu Muyen very well, so this could be considered her returning the favor. "Wow, Muyen, you actually have so many good things." Ling Fei Hao quickly put the things away and said with big smiles, "Your master really is nice to you." Although she saw that he had misunderstood, but Lu Muyen didn't explain, "You just take good hold of it. After the trial ends, you'll go to the Ling clan to visit elder cousin brother Fei Yang." Speaking of Ling Fei Yang, the eyes of the people in the Ling clan unanimously displayed a bit of sadness. If Ling Fei Yang could also participate in the selection trial this time, they believed he definitely would be able to lead them to win a few more places for the competition. Don't be discouraged. Elder cousin brother Fei Yang will definitely get better. I believe he also hopes to see you all return successfully. Lu Muyen had confidence in curing Ling Fei Yang, but now wasn't a good time to say it. Seeing the few people a little dispirited, she squeezed her fists in encouragement. "Muyen's right. We must do our best to win glory for the Ling clan." Ling Fei Li's delicate face revealed a gentle smile, then she looked at Lu Muyen and Lu Mu Bai, saying, "You both be careful on your journey. I heard that the trial this time isn't that simple. Take care." "You guys take care too." After separating from Ling Fei Hao and the others, Lu Mu Yen and Lu Mu Bai returned to where the students of Yanzhou Kingdom were. But before they could sit down, they saw Shi Feng walk over. He stood in front of Lu Mu Yen, looked at her expressionlessly and asked, "You are Lu Mu Yen from the general's mansion of Yanzhou Kingdom?" One author typed Feng Clan here, but pretty sure it's a typo. Think there were at least another typo somewhere, but yeah. No wonder MTL gets even more mixed up sometimes, huh? 2. It's a colloquial description in China and kind of makes fun of all those cool, cold, expressionless male leads that always appear in dramas. In particular used to refer to men who act cool, and usually to make fun of them for pretending to act like that. 3. Pretty straightforward, but it is an idiom that translates literally to different tunes sung with equal skill, aka different approaches but equally satisfactory results. For the same as spiritual energy replenishing pill. Probably an insignificant note, but yeah, huh? Chapter 83. The start of the trial missions. Lu Mu Yen watched Shi Feng walk over, but she didn't expect that this person would talk to her. Although Shi Feng was expressionless, but she could feel that he wasn't hostile. She nodded calmly. "I'm Lu Mu Yen. Something the matter? I heard that you have a pill called the marrow cleansing pill?" Only when Shi Feng mentioned pills was there a slight fluctuation in his usually calm eyes. Lu Mu Yan's expression didn't change. "Yes, but I don't have any more now." "Do you have the pill recipe for the marrow cleansing pill? I can exchange it with you for a high-level grade 3 pill recipe." This was the first time that Shi Feng ever mentioned wanting to make such a transaction with anyone. He was very excited when he heard about the efficacy of the marrow cleansing pill. The pill recipe of a pill that had such an effect, defying normalcy, was something no alchemist could refuse. He didn't know whether Lu Mu Yen would agree to his proposal or not, but he wanted to give it a try regardless. "I don't. The pill recipe of the marrow cleansing pill is in my master's hands." Lu Mu Yen shrugged and expressed helplessness. Recently, many people desired her marrow cleansing pill, but Shi Feng seemed to only be interested in the pill recipe. If it were someone else, they might be tempted by the deal he proposed. After all, it wouldn't be a disadvantage to exchange a grade 2 pill recipe for a grade 3 high-level pill recipe. But in her head, there existed unique pill recipes that don't even exist on this continent, so how could she be tempted by Shi Feng's grade 3 pill recipe? Shi Feng appeared to have expected it, but he was still a little bit disappointed. He fell silent for a while, then said to Lu Mu Yen with a calm expression, "If you want to trade in the future, you can come to the Shi clan to find me." "All right." Lu Mu Yen didn't refuse either. "Then excuse me," Shi Feng said politely before turning to leave. Lu Mu Yen quickly withdrew her gaze that was on him. This person sure was quite polite. After Shi Feng left, she found an empty space and sat down, ignoring the gazes that were cast on her from all directions. She calmly took out a soft and delicious pastry from her interspatial ring to eat. A quarter of an hour later, the trial teams of the 10 distinguished clans quickly gathered and hurried to the boundary between the outer ring and the periphery of the glacial mountain range. Only the people of Yanzhou Kingdom who participated in the trial and the demonic beast corpses scattered around remained. Lan Si also returned to the team. He nipped a piece of tea pastry from Lu Mu Yen and sent it to his mouth, then said with a smile, "Lu Mu Yen, you made these yourself?" "Yeah, it's made with spiritual tea." Lu Mu Yen didn't know from where Lan Si could tell that the pastries were made by herself, but she didn't conceal it either. "It tastes pretty good." Lan Si took another piece and swallowed it. Lu Mu Yen guessed that he still had something to say, so she didn't respond, and just smiled faintly. "Aren't you going to break through? It's dangerous after we enter the boundary between the outer ring and the inner ring." Lan Si slowly took out a handkerchief and wiped the corners of his mouth and hands, then tossed it away casually. The handkerchief vanished with the wind without a trace. Lu Mu Yen pursed her lips. "Maybe, during our next rest." The spiritual energy had already reached its peak within her, and her cultivation base had already reached a bottleneck. It was only because it was inconvenient to immediately advance in the glacial mountain range, that's why she had been suppressing her cultivation base. Since Lan Si reminded her so kindly, Then she had nothing to hide either. The corners of Lan Si's lips raised, and he didn't say any more. Only after resting for almost 2 hours and after feeling that the distance between them and the team ahead had lengthened, did he tell everyone to rise and keep going. While on the way, Lu Muyen saw that Yun Lan wanted to talk to her, but was hesitating, so she said first, "Elder cousin brother has something to tell me?" "It's nothing big, I just wanted to ask, you're very familiar with Yi Qing Han?" "Yeah, we can be considered friends." Lu Muyen nodded with a smile. Yun Lan fell silent for a while, then said, "Then, Muyen, can you help me arrange a battle hymn to exchange pointers?" "Elder cousin brother, why do you insist on exchanging pointers with Yi Qing Han?" Lu Muyen had always been curious as to why Yun Lan wanted to chase after Yi Qing Han so persistently. Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site. Thanks, his skill attributes are the same as mine. Every time I finish fighting with him, I'll always have some comprehensions. It just so happens that my current sword skill is at a bottleneck. Yun Lan explained. He wasn't that familiar with Yi Qing Han, and it was only accidental that they fought twice before. If he went to arrange a battle with Yi Qing Han, he feared that he would misunderstand, so he wanted to ask Lu Muyen for help. Lu Muyen smiled in understanding now and said, "So it's like that. Then after the trial, I'll help you ask him." Either way, after the trial's over, she needed to go to the Yi clan for a month, so it was fine to take an extra person. Yi Qing Han presumably wouldn't reject either. Alright, then I'll trouble Muyen. Along the way, they encountered countless attacks from demonic beasts, and even a few Tier 4 demonic beasts that lead groups, but they were all avoided. Of course, the effect of Lu Muyen's powdered drug took half the credit. They hurried on with their journey while killing demonic beasts, and 7 days passed. The group of talents arrived at the border between the forest and icy mountains. Lan Si and the other instructors took them to a place at the foot of the icy mountains. There sat a wooden hut, and after entering, a warm current spread towards them. In the middle of the wooden hut, there was a stove, and above the stove rose wisps of steam. There was also a kettle atop of it, and a white-haired old man sat before it. "Yun Song, you're all here. Take a seat." Yun Song raised his eyes and nodded to everyone. Lan Si and the few instructors sat down, then the students all found a random spot to sit. "Lu girl, I heard that you have quite good tea-making skills. Come and make a pot." Lu Muyen lowered her eyes, pulled Lu Mu by together to sit beside Yun Song, then said, "Yes." Yun Song smiled, took out a box of spiritual tea from his interspatial ring and handed it to Lu Muyen. Lu Muyen took the spiritual tea, and as soon as she opened the lid, a rich and fragrant smell wafted to her nose. She took a few spoonsful out and started to brew tea. As expected from the Imperial teacher of Yenzhou Kingdom, the quality of this spiritual tea was much better than the quality of the tea she obtained from shopkeeper Lu. Lu Muyen's actions that were like moving clouds and flowing water were very pleasing to the eye. Then she listened to Yun Song's order and poured everyone a cup. Yun Song's value of Lu Muyen and his different attitude towards her made most of the other students astounded, and they all reassessed Lu Muyen in their hearts. Yun Song took a sip from his teacup and his eyes revealed some satisfaction, then said rather slowly towards everyone, "Starting today, your trial truly begins. Your first mission. Within 5 days, each of you must go out and kill at least 10 Tier 5 demonic beasts and come back. You can team up to complete the mission, or you can snatch it from other people, but you aren't allowed to kill each other. After 5 days, come here to meet us. If you don't reach the number, you will be eliminated automatically. Then a small team from the Imperial family will escort the eliminated people back to the Imperial capital." "Yes, Imperial teacher." Hearing the first task issued, every student participating in the trial here were all feeling ambitious and fervent. By the way, you need to complete this operation alone or in any team. The instructors will no longer accompany you throughout, so pay attention to your own safety. If you die here, then everything will be over for you. I hope that you will all stay alive." Yun Song drank all the tea in the cup and with a serious expression, "Rest for a night, and you'll leave early tomorrow morning. Whether you complete the mission or not, 5 days later, before this time, report back." We will follow the instructions of the Imperial teacher. Chapter 84, Spiritual Force Body Tempering. After everyone scattered, Lu Mu Yen greeted Lu Mu Bai before walking to sit cross-legged atop a large tree with dense foliage not far from the wooden house. She closed her eyes and the spiritual energy within her body performed a few macrocosmic orbits, placing her whole body and mind in a free and empty state. One night was enough for her to advance. Streams of spiritual force came from all directions and quickly entered her body. A faint green force encircled her dantian, full of vitality. Above her head, in the sky, clusters of spiritual clouds gathered, and lightning bolts descended from the spiritual clouds, striking each of Lu Mu Yan's meridians. The spiritual force continuously tempered her body. Dazzling lights like colored glaze shone down on her through the dense leaves, making the gorgeous, white-clothed young girl appear as if a stunning celestial that had descended, rippling in light and enigmatic as if behind a layer of mist. And this sight naturally stirred everyone who was resting within the wooden hut. They leapt out of the house, looked in Lu Mu Yan's direction, and were completely stunned. This is spiritual force body tempering? A student stammered out. Isn't Lu Mu Yan's talent a bit too strong? She's only advancing but can actually attract spiritual force body tempering. Isn't it that only the legendary constitution can cause such an anomalous phenomenon of heaven and earth? A member of the Imperial family said in disbelief. She doesn't have a special or rare constitution, but it's said that people with the terminal meridian's constitution are actually extremely talented and heaven-defying. It's just that it's been stopped by their terminal meridians. So after eradicating the terminal meridian's constitution, her talents and aptitudes are gradually revealed. This truly is the so-called interdependence of blessings and misfortunes. The Lu Mu Yen, after eradicating the terminal meridian's constitution, compared to the trash from before, are like two different people. The students were discussing constantly, and they all sighed with mixed emotions at Lu Mu Yan's good fortune. Yun Song, Lan Si, and Yun Ji were also standing outside the hut, looking at the anomalous phenomena occurring at that large tree. Every time a spiritual cloud scattered, there would be even more that floated over. It was as if the white-clothed woman shrouded in a colorful glaze had a dantian that was a bottomless pit, incessantly absorbing the spiritual force of heaven and earth. Its speed was truly breathtaking. Imperial teacher, Lu Mu Yen really doesn't have the heavenly spiritual body? Yun Ji looked at Yun Song in confusion, asking. He had never seen anyone who could attract the spiritual force body tempering anomalous phenomenon when they were advancing. Such an anomalous phenomenon was only a legendary existence, yet he didn't expect to see it today occurring on the infamous trash of the Empire. Yun Song's gaze was deep, and with a rare smile on his face, he sighed. She does indeed not have the heavenly spiritual body, but she has excelling talent that is no less than a heavenly spiritual body. The future of this girl is immeasurable. Then, Yun Song looked at Lan Si with a serious expression and ordered, "No accident can occur to Lu Mu Yen during this trial." Whether it was the master behind Lu Mu Yen or the excelling cultivation and alchemy talents that she displayed, it all decided that she would be an extraordinary person in the future. The Empire could not lose such a talent. I will protect her secretly. Lan Si nodded, but all the missions in the trial need to be completed by herself, so I will not take action until a life or death moment. That is only of course. If she can't even pass such a trial, then it would be a waste of her good aptitude. A sharp glint flashed in Yun Song's eyes. I just have a feeling that she can win a trial quota this time. I hope so. The gaze that Lan Si cast towards Lu Mu Yen revealed a hint of extreme interest. After a few hours, Lu Mu Yan's spiritual energy soared. She opened her tightly shut eyes and formed a few hand seals before her. The few spiritual clouds that remained in the sky were absorbed by her, and the layer of thin film that blocked her advancement in her dantian was broken by the flooding of elemental energy. 1. A huge amount of spiritual energy poured into her dantian, and the light green mist expanded in size. Only after performing a few cosmic orbits in her body was Lu Mu Yan's advancement complete. Feeling the abundant and deep spiritual energy within her, a confident smile rose on her lips. Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site. Thanks. Although she was only at a sword spirit cultivation base, but the spiritual energy in her body wasn't inferior to that of an initial phase Sword King Sword Master. Now she had another layer of guarantee for the upcoming trial mission. Then Lu Mu Yan finished and glanced in the direction of the wooden hut with furrowed brows. There, countless pairs of eyes were staring at her, transfixed, making her feel very helpless. After eradicating her terminal meridian's constitution, her potential talent was even better than those pampered children with special constitutions. And because of her unique flesh refining manual, every time she advanced, she would attract the anomalous phenomena of heaven and earth where spiritual clouds would send lightning to temper her body. She suddenly felt a headache because the scene of her advancement was too big. She didn't like being watched and liked to cause trouble even less. But as long as she could refine the foundation establishment pill and take it, after successfully establishing her foundation, she could create a site where it would conceal and isolate the anomalous phenomena of heaven and earth during advancement from the outside world. She ignored the gazes of those people. Right now, she was bound to be questioned if she walked over, so she continued to sit on the tree and close her eyes to rest. It wasn't until when the time came for the mission to start did Lu Mu Yan jump off the branch and leave with Lu Mu Bai and the rest. After separating from the other trial students, Yun Lan took out a beast skin map and carefully checked it. Alan, you actually have a map of the outer ring and inner ring of the glacial mountain range. Xiao Ziong looked at the beast skin map and said in surprise. Yun Lan looked at the beast skin map carefully, then explained, "This is from my master." After hearing that it was given by Yun Lan's master, Xiao Ziong said excitedly with a smile, "Then are there marked locations for the Tier 5 demonic beasts we need to find?" Yun Lan's master was Tatsord's sovereign expert of the empire that was currently in closed-door cultivation, and also Yenzhou Kingdom's strongest sword master. It was also because of his support that Yenzhou Kingdom wasn't completely reduced to the ranks of a small country. "Yep, there are rough coordinates," Yun Lan said to them after confirming a few points on the map. "There's a Tier 5 ice ape to the east of the mountain, and it's also the closest place to us. Let's go there for the mission first." All right. Their little team consisted of Yun Lan, Yun Jin, Xiao Ziong, Yun Luo, Qi Xian, and the two siblings of the Lu clan. Their strengths were relatively prominent among the trial teams. With Yun Lan's map, the efficiency would be improved a lot, so it wouldn't be difficult for them to complete the missions. It saved time and trouble. 5 days was enough. "Elder cousin brother, are there marked locations of spiritual herbs?" Lu Mu Yan asked in a whisper when she walked beside Yun Lan. Yun Lan nodded, "Yes, but not complete. There's only markings for spiritual herbs that are being protected by demonic beasts." "Can I take a look?" Lu Mu Yan's eyes lit up like stars. A spiritual herb like the deep orchid would definitely be guarded by a demonic beast. Yun Lan smiled, took out the beast skin map from his chest area 1 and handed it to Lu Mu Yan. Then he pointed to a few places where only one word was written, saying, "These are the places. There's the word orchid 2 here. Does it represent the deep orchid?" Lu Mu Yan stared at the place marked on the map with the word orchid as her heart skipped a beat. "Yes, the deep orchid can only be found in the glacial mountain range. It's extremely rare and precious. According to my master's notes, the demonic beast guarding it is a peak phase Tier 5 cold mist Jiao 3. It's also the king of the northwest area." Yun Lan was very familiar with the things marked on the map. His master had explained it all to him one by one before coming. Lu Mu Yan pointed to a few other markings and asked at random, but she noted down the deep orchid's direction and location in her heart. One probably an unnecessary explanation, but you know how in ancient China, people wore robe-like clothes? Love them BW, they're so pretty. Anyways, obviously you wrap one side of the robe over the other side to wear it, so there's a slit there to put things. Often in Chinese dramas you'd see them take things out from their chest area. Women are often seen taking things out from their sleeves. 2. The actual character is from, which is deep orchid. 3. Okay, based on my many years of reading Chinese novels, the word used here to describe the animal means a being that is more than a snake but less than a dragon. I did a brief Google and Baidu search and it came up with, amongst some other answers, which is translated as a flood dragon. Are thought to be beings that are related to water only. It can eventually evolve to become a true dragon, however. There's no real English translation except dragon, but it's not quite. So I'm leaving it as it is, haha. Chapter 85. How violent Lu Mu Yen and her party quickly arrived at the Ice Apes cave marked on the map. Sure enough, they felt 3 Tier 5 demonic beast auras in the depths of the cave. Outside the cave, groups of low-level ice apes were walking back and forth. Yun Lan made a gesture to the others with his hands, took out a long sword, then cut through the air. The others also took out their spirit treasures one by one to sweep through the low-level ice apes outside, and in only a short while, they made their way deep into the cave. Roar! Their fight also attracted the attention of the 3 ice ape kings deep in the cave that rushed out, beating their chests. Lu Mu Yen looked at one of the ice ape kings that was more than 3 meters high, and fighting spirit rose in her eyes. After the spiritual force body tempering and advancing to a sword spirit, her bodhi's toughness also rose a level, and the flesh refining technique rose a layer too. This initial phase Tier 5 demonic beast was the perfect opponent for to practice against right now. Leave that shortest one to me, Lu Mu Yen said as she rolled her fists. Xiao Ziong rolled his eyes at her and said, that's a Tier 5 demonic beast. Even if you did advance to sword spirit, you don't need to be so wild and arrogant, right? Lu Mu Yen glanced at him lightly. It's not like I'm an idiot like you. After speaking, she didn't wait for anyone else to say anything, and with a flash, she just raised her fist and charged over. She leapt up and with bare hands, directly greeting the ice ape that charged towards her. Boom boom. The two collided. The ice ape stumbled back a few steps, while Lu Mu Yen was directly slammed into the wall opposite, shaking down a lot of rubble. However, her face not only didn't have the slightest discoloration, but instead, her fighting spirit grew more and more intense. Her exquisite and gorgeous face was dyed with a layer of faint red. Then with a leap, she once again, in midair, punched towards the ice ape. The ice ape king had already developed intelligence, so it was completely angered by such provocation from a human that was one stage lower than itself. It beat its chest and roared a few times, then similarly clenched its hands to greet that tender fist. Bang! The 2 fists met, but neither side was jolted back this time. They continued to fight using the most primitive physical combat method, throwing punches at each other one by one. Is Lu Mu Yen still a woman? Xiao Ziong watched that petite and delicate woman collide and bombard that tall, thick ice ape, completely stupefied. And yet she wasn't at a disadvantage at all. The traces of wildness, arrogance, and that domineering manner she revealed completely startled him. Yun Jin couldn't help but twitch the corners of his mouth. He stood beside Xiao Ziong with folded arms as his eyes revealed some interest. How violent! But I like it. Xiao Ziong held his forehead. Were there still any normal people around? He glanced around. Yun Lan and Yun Luo were practicing against one. Lu Mu Bai faced another alone. Qi Xian was cleaning up the few low-level ice apes that they had missed, and Lu Mu Yen was just currently fighting gleefully. He couldn't help but poke Yun Jin's arm and said, "Is it really fine for us to just stand here and watch the fight? What's wrong with that? Those who have the abilities do more work. Just let them fight first." Their hands were itching for a long time. Yun Jin raised an eyebrow indifferently. Even if we want to intervene, there's nowhere to be of use right now, so just watch. Xiao Ziong also realized that Yun Jin's words were reasonable, so he shrugged and continued to watch the battle. From time to time, he would even nitpick Lu Mu Yan's fight, but he couldn't help but feel admiration towards her rise within him. Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site. Thanks, the fight developed into a completely one-sided battle. Lu Mu by easily beheaded the Ice Ape King. He battled while Yun Lan and Yun Luo also killed the other Ice Ape without using their full strength. Seeing that the other people's battles were already over, Lu Mu Yen didn't delay any more time either. She took 2 steps back, moved her fingers, and one immediately saw thin red threads of elemental energy condensation reveal itself from the Ice Ape's thin fur, displayed in an octagonal shape. This was the fire elemental energy array that she quietly buried on the Ice Ape's body every time her body physically clashed with the Ice Ape's. If she wanted to kill her opponent with her physical strength alone, she still couldn't do it for the time being. Of course, if she could do another spiritual force body tempering, then she could do it. Lu Mu Yen murmured a few phrases and activated the fire elemental energy in the array. The octagonal-shaped red threads began to move quickly and gradually tightened. A moment later, the red thread firmly bound the limbs of the Ice Ape, trapping it in place for the time being. At the same time, the eye of the array lit up brightly in red, transforming into streams of light that shot out directly towards the center of the Ice Ape's eyebrows. The Ice Ape wailed, then its huge body fell heavily to the ground, without a single breath remaining. The few people that were originally merely standing, watching her fight were now all stunned. When did she arrange this trick? They didn't notice it at all. They only knew the constant bombardment of bodies between her and the Ice Ape, but they didn't expect that she had long planted a second means to win. Mu Yen, what was the matter with that trick you just used? Elemental energy condensation is really this powerful? Yunjin watched Lu Mu Yan's battle from start to finish but didn't notice that she used elemental energy condensation. The elemental energy condensation of a sword skill was what made the Yi clan famous, but it didn't have such potent, silent, and obscure powers. Lu Mu Yen collected her spoils, and didn't conceal either. This is an array formed by elemental energy condensation. Those thin red threads had long destroyed the meridians in the limbs of that Ice Ape. When I decide to kill it, it can also play a restraining role. She was most famous in the spirit world not for her alchemy skills, but for her arrays. She had thoroughly researched all types of arrays and were highly adept in them. If her strength allowed her, she could even personally arrange a few ancient great arrays. Even if a sword sovereign expert entered, she could promise that they wouldn't be able to exit. Although at the cultivation base of a great sword master, she could condense the elemental energy within their body, but it wasn't that powerful. However, after entering the sword spirit stage, she could use many different skills. An elemental energy array could also be quietly assembled, making one hard to defend against it. It made fights a lot easier. Except she was currently cultivating the cultivation skills of the immortal cultivation world, so advancing in the levels of a sword master just couldn't allow her to use certain talents. Only when she established her foundation, formed a core, formed a nascent soul and so forth, like in her previous life, could she exhibit her strengths. Aren't arrays only able to be arranged with array flags and array tools? Yun Luo asked in surprise. Most arrays do require array flags and array tools, but they can also be constructed with elemental energy. But not everyone can use elemental energy to build an array. Lu Mu Yen stretched out her hand and a red, octagonal elemental energy array was easily constructed by her. She continued, building an array with elemental energy not only requires one to do 3 things at once, but also requires the talent to enter a free and empty state at any time and make a sketch of the array in their heart. The heart array was a secret manual that had long been lost in the ancient times. She only knew it because she accidentally discovered it in an ancient cultivator's cave. In the immortal cultivation world, there wouldn't be more than 10 people that could use spiritual energy to build an array. In a place like Tianling continent where everything was lacking, it was probably even more impossible to find a second person who could use the heart array. After listening to Lu Mu Yan's explanation, Yun Luo and the rest were all speechless. In the end, wasn't it that it required talent to be able to do it? They sure didn't have the ability to achieve a free and empty state of mind at any time, nor do 3 things at once. Lu Mu Yen was just specifically attacking them now. It only took a few months for her to advance from an advanced phase sword novice to a sword spirit. This sort of speed really made them, who were the so-called geniuses, yet used more than a decade, feel ashamed. She also only used the cultivation base of a sword spirit to defeat a Tier 5 ice ape that was equivalent to an initial phase sword king strength, and not only used elemental energy condensation, but could also use elemental energy to build an array to kill her opponent. These methods had never been heard of before. She slowly revealed to them the edges of her talents, but every time they thought that her strength and the means she displayed had already exceeded their imagination, she could attack them again with reality. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.